All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the November 5th, 2025 Bruce Township Planning Commission meeting. Our start time is 6:01 p.m. Dana, would you please call the roll?
Hazelstein?
Here.
Boyce?
Here.
D. Vinson?
Here.
D. Blaylock?
Here.
Barnett?
Here.
Cant?
Here.
J. Vinson.
Here. We have a quorum. Before we start the business part of our meeting, I would ask that you rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so this is a public business meeting of the Planning Commission, but we do welcome public comments at various points throughout our agenda. We do request that you sign in on the sheet at the table along the wall there to my right if you haven't already done so. The Planning Commission is made up of 7 Bruce Township residents appointed by the board. In addition, we have a Township employee, Dana Buchanan, who's the planning coordinator. We also have Joe Tangari, a professional planner with Giffords Webster. There are 2 opportunities for public comments this evening. One is a general public comment, and then one is a public hearing on lot depth. And so if you're speaking on the lot depth, you can hold those comments until the public hearing for that. Otherwise, during public comment, you can speak on any matter that you would like to. If you do, we ask that you keep those comments to 3 minutes. And when you do come to the podium, please state your name and address. And please address your comments to the commissioners and not anybody in the audience. And on behalf of the commissioners, we appreciate your participation in the meeting this evening. So with that, we've got the approval of the minutes from the October 1st meeting. Commissioners, you received that in email, and there's also a item at your desk or at your chair. Are there any changes to the meeting minutes from October? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Cant, seconded by Commissioner Hagelstein. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. Approval of the agenda is next up for this evening. Any changes to the agenda this evening, commissioners? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Jay Vinson, seconded by Commissioner Barnett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? That takes us to item 6. So that is our public comment. So if you are here to speak anything other than the lot depth issue, please make your way to the podium. State your name and address, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Planning Commission members. My name is Nick Batsakors, and I am the owner of 80800 Van Dyke, Bruce Township, Michigan, which is the Romeo Lavender Farm. A 17-acre piece of property, which is nestled between 2 commercial designations. One is to the south of me, the Henry Ford Medical Center, which I understand it's going to be probably designated as office, but it's still a commercial use. And directly north to me is Almont Township, the 10 or 15 acres along that road, which butts right up Boardman Road, is also going to be commercial, and it's already designated as commercial. Over the past year, I've submitted several letters clearly outlining why my property is ideally suited for commercial use in the township's future or master plan or future master plan. I'm not sure if there's a difference. The facts speak for themselves. Is a high-traffic, hard corner. Boardman Road goes about 30 miles. So, and we already know about Van Dyke. And it's one of the busiest corridors in northern Macomb County. The property is surrounded by existing expanding commercial uses, which I just mentioned, making it a logical, beneficial location for future, and again, I have to emphasize future, commercial designation. This could be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road. To this day, I have not heard a reasonable explanation given to me or publicly why this property continues to be excluded as a possible commercial use in the master plan. Nothing reasonable at all, other than, well, we don't want it. Well, that's not reasonable, okay? I know you guys did a survey. The survey went to 5,000 people, and I think, 300-something responded? But do they know that this is for the future? It's not rezoning today or tomorrow or the next day. This is for the future. But 300 people are certainly not a good representation of the whole township. And the only reason you didn't get more responses is because people really don't care unless it's in their backyard. You guys know this. The property also has the least amount of residential impact. And you had a meeting last time, and Anne Marie was kind of excited that 34 Mile Road, that doesn't have a lot of residentials around there. That'd be great for commercial because it doesn't impact them, and I applaud you for that. I applaud you for protecting the property rights of the people of this township. I really do. That's something that you guys do a very good job of. And being a township property owner, I appreciate that. But my property is the furthest away from anybody. 99% of the people in the Bruce Township won't even be affected by it. 99%, probably even less than that. I think there's maybe 2 property owners. My nearest neighbor is 1,700 feet away, and my other neighbor across Van Dyke is about that far away too. I mean, I have virtually nobody that it would bother. But again, you guys making it sound like we're doing this tomorrow. We're not. This is for the future master plan. And I think the most important thing is you need to designate this because it's going to happen one day. It's on Van Dyke, your busiest corridor, and you need to protect the future homeowners in this area when they go to build a home, that this area may become commercial. So you have that obligation. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit passionate, but I just, I haven't heard any good reason at all. Joe, one of your jobs is to, educate the township, the planning commission on what has been done in the past, what is kind of reasonable, what have other communities done. I mean, you do a good job of this. But sometimes when someone brings a piece of property to your attention, you kind of go over, hey, well, I didn't hear you say, well, he is bordered by 2 commercial properties. He is on the busiest corridor. He is on a hard corner. Generally, these properties in the future do become commercial. I didn't hear none of that from you. Generally, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to educate them that these types of properties generally become that in the future. So, I'd appreciate that. I don't mean to tell you how to run your job, but I was just kind of heard the last meeting and I didn't hear nothing come out of your mouth. Just because he wants it. Well, it's not about what I want.
So, Nick, let's wrap it up, okay?
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little bit thing. But, I would like to hear reasons why. I'd like to hear reasons why. Concrete, logical reasons why this piece of property is not a good idea for future commercial use in the township. I've been waiting 5 years for this. When I bought the property, I knew exactly what I was getting into. I knew exactly. I talked to other people that were on the planning commission and other township supervisors before you guys. They said, yeah, Nick, that's a perfect candidate in the future. So I knew exactly what I was getting into. So, in ending, and I'll let you go. It's really hard to talk to because I don't get no feedback, but hopefully I will get some feedback one day, because I like to hear it. Thank you for your time. Let's keep let's not have the fear of a few people who have, and again, protect the township, I get it, but look at where I'm located. That is the biggest reason. It's not about Nick, it's not about me, it's about where the property is located. You really got to, focus on where the property is located. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else here for public comment? All right, that's going to take us to item 7, which is our public hearings for this evening. We do have one related to lot depth. All right, Joe, anything to go over before we open up the public hearing?
Yeah, there's a couple of components to this. We've got two different sub-items in section 517, which governs private roads here that we're looking to change. One is that we would be taking out item C5, which is, got the file open here. Is a standard that requires that any lot fronting on a private road be 200 feet deep. The standard doesn't apply to public roads, and as we've discussed a few times, there's really no reason to be treating them differently. So that's what that one does. And then the other aspect of this is looking at subsection C1, which currently prohibits a private road from serving parcels in single-family districts if they're in the water and sewer district, and this would just take out the water and sewer district restriction there and just says you can use a private road. And part of that is due to the county not wanting any more local streets in its inventory of streets.
Commissioners have any questions for Joe on the proposed ordinance language modification? Joe, so this would be applicable in all zoning districts?
Yeah.
So what will guide lot depth if this isn't here? I understand that it's not reasonable where it is and how it's language, the language, but what will guide that?
There's a couple things that will guide it. One is the minimum lot size. So you have a minimum lot width and a minimum lot size in any given district. So you're going to have a certain amount of depth to get to the minimum lot size. Okay. And then also there is a ratio of depth to width that's generally required. Typically it's 4:1. Okay. And that's set forward in the statewide land division statute. You can vary that in your own local ordinances. Ours has a couple of exceptions to it, but mostly we follow the 4:1. Very large lots don't generally have to follow the 4:1, but we're talking like lots that are over 5 acres.
Joe, is there any consideration outside of the sewer and water district where the removal of this could create a challenge if you're trying to account for a house and a septic, like all of that within a lot that's now not required to have 200 feet of depth? Like, is there anything about that that would become problematic?
As long as you're meeting the minimum lot depth in those areas, they're generally zoned so that you've got enough land. So it's, if you ultimately run into a problem where you can't do it because of the health department is telling you you can't get the septic and well on that site, then you're going to have to do something with your lot boundaries.
Okay.
But usually the solution to that, if you can't get a septic field, is to do an engineered septic field.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Joe? So I'm gonna make a motion to open the public hearing at 6:17 PM. Second.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jay Vincent, seconded by Commissioner Barnett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Public hearing is now open. So if anyone's here and would like to speak on this lot depth issue, please come up to the podium and please address the commissioners. All right, seeing no one here to speak on this particular matter, move to close the public hearing at 6:18 PM. Second?
Second.
Second, or motion by Jay Vincent, seconded by Commissioner Barnett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. All right, it's back to the commissioners. So we've got proposed ordinance language changes in front of you. Does someone like to take a stab at a motion?
I'll give it a try, Jared.
Okay.
Help me out here, Joe. Okay, I will make a motion that we recommend to the board amendments to our zoning ordinance, specifically 161-517C5. And the amendment would be to eliminate the provision that requires the placement of a private road for building sites with a minimum depth of 200 feet exclusive of the 60-foot road easement on both sides of the road. That's for, if I didn't say it, that disregards a private road. The second amendment would be to 161-517C1, and that would be to strike the language in item 1, which states that within residential zoning districts, that roads not be located in any area served by public sewer or water facilities, or to be served in the foreseeable future, or in any area of the township having poorly drained conditions, and where adequate stormwater drainage is not available as determined by the township engineer. And the reasons for the recommendation to approve the amendments are there's no logical reason for the discrepancy between how private and public roads are being treated. The existing ordinance is not practical because the county has not accepted public roads in years. Thirdly, that there are no unintended consequences if the ordinance is amended. And lastly, other provisions in the ordinance will guide how this takes place in the future.
Is there a second to the motion?
Go ahead.
You have something to say on it?
Yeah, I was going to second along with a clarification, but Randy second. And my clarification is I believe you said 60 feet on each side of the road, and I think that it's 60 feet total. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm amending my motion to make that correction.
Okay.
Thank you for catching that.
Okay, we got one clarification, and then any other questions or comments before we take it to a vote? Dana, would you call the roll, please?
D. Vinson,
Yes.
Boyce,
Yes.
Hagelstein,
Yes.
J. Vinson,
Yes.
Cant,
Yes.
Barnett,
Yes.
Blaylock.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, that will go to the board for their consideration. Next on the agenda is item 8, Christina's Crossing Final Condo Review.
Good evening. Pete Snyder, Urban Land Consultants, 8800 23 Mile Road, Shelby Township, representing the applicant, Tom Vitale of Vital Building. He is in the audience with me as well. I apologize to him mostly that I wasn't here for when this was here at preliminary condo, but I had a conflict and could not be here. So, but again, this is, you granted preliminary condo a few months ago. Since then, we've gone to the health department and gotten the health department approval, because that's required when you have a site condo. All site condos have to go through the health department if they have septics or wells, and this has both. So we went to the health department with the plan and got the health department approval, and now we're ready to come back for final condo approval. And of course, for those of you who either don't know or want to be refreshed, this is actually an existing condo, Christina's Crossing. It's a two-unit condo that the applicant is dividing the units, each unit into two pieces. It meets the zoning ordinance. The resulting units are still bigger than the zoning minimums, and there's still plenty of room for the well and the septic on all of the 4 units. So, and it's actually more similar in size to some of the other units, or the other parcel splits along Taft Road. So with that, I'm available for any questions. I've seen the planner's review and the engineer's review, and I didn't really see anything there that should be a showstopper. So if you have any questions about those, I can answer them specifically, but they seem fairly straightforward. So I might mention one thing. The planner did recommend talking about the wetlands. That didn't come up at preliminary condo, but there is a wetlands there. There's a patch of woods, I think, up in the corner of the Prince. That would be the northeast corner. It actually is a wetland. We had a professional wetland consultant actually went out late last week at the request of I'll say, at the behest of wanting to know further, and that it came up on the comments. There is a wetland there. It's not a regulated wetland. It's not regulated by the state of Michigan because it's neither attached to a stream nor greater than 5 acres in size. So,
Okay.
So there is a wetland, but it's not state regulated. So I think functionally that means it's not regulated at all. So. But yeah, with that clarification, if there are any other questions or comments that come up, I am certainly available.
Go ahead.
Is it okay?
Yep, go ahead.
Pete, the lot that is to the far east, I guess
Yeah.
that would be with that big tail,
With the panhandle, yeah,
will that belong to that lot?
yes.
So would that homeowner be able to create another point of ingress and egress on his lot?
No, that'd be prohibited in the master deed and on the Exhibit B documents. So they get just like any other thing. They get one driveway. And so and really that situation is no different than already exists right now. There is a unit right now that has that tail. It's unit 2. So, but yeah, that's to be prohibited. That's,
Okay.
yeah.
And then this was, I think I know the answer because you just answered that question, that the attorney wanted us to be sure that there are no general or limited common elements.
Yeah, that is correct. The text in the prior master deed that was prepared, it was, unfortunately, that master deed read a lot more like a template. And with your system of reviewing, the attorney gets the master deed language, and the engineer gets the Exhibit B. And so the attorney, Christine Anderson, who I know well, would have, if she'd have had both documents, she would have seen, hey, there's no common elements here, get that out of the master deed. Again, the master deed revision is being handled by another attorney who's a lot more clear about such things. He's like, there's no common elements here, let's just get it out of the master deed. Likewise, the language about detention and stormwater facilities, there never was any of that. It's just that Christine Anderson didn't know that when she was reviewing the prior master deed, but it's being taken out now, it's being fixed at this point.
And then her last question concerned, she wants something added to the master deed, a provision that indicates notwithstanding rights set forth in the Article 6. Did you see that?
Yeah, so that has to do with easements for access by the township. Like, for instance, a private road, does the township entity, have rights to that? Because these units all directly front Taft Road, I mean, you automatically have access to Taft Road, so you automatically have access to each and every unit just by Taft Road being a public road. So we can add the provision if she thinks that it's required, but Mark Abdu had seen her comment and had responded to us, at least, that's because they all front Taft Road, there's no reason to grant access rights to the township. You already got it via Taft Road. But, yeah, again, it's a pretty minor point. So I think part of it is just because Christine isn't looking at the Exhibit B at the same time. So if she were, she probably would realize that was not necessary language.
To your knowledge, your attorney didn't, or the attorney for the applicant didn't contact Christine?
I don't know. Did he? Okay, no. But he will, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Christine did comment to me, though, that she has worked with him for a lot of years.
Oh, yeah.
And is confident that whatever needs doing, he will do.
Good.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think that was all I had, Jared.
Okay. Any other questions for Pete before we turn it over to Joe? All right. Joe?
Right, so we're really going from 2 lots to 4 here. And this does match the original preliminary plan, which, as noted at the time, met the zoning in terms of lot size and frontage, access, lot width. They're showing the correct setbacks for all their building envelopes, including a natural feature setback from that wetland area. It's zoned R1, so they're over the roughly 2-acre minimum for that district, all these lots. This is a very simple condo. It is essentially a stand-in for lot splits that normally we wouldn't really be looking at. But as long as the drainage is properly directed when each of these units is built, ultimately we see this as a compliant condo, and They'll have to put in a tree with each house. You know, that's one of the only other notes that we've still got in green in our letter.
Yep.
So,
And a sidewalk one.
yeah, they pay into the sidewalk fund, yeah.
So that was H that you covered there, Joe, just as long as it's drained properly.
Yeah, exactly. And that gets checked, you know, on the plot plan when a house is submitted. So they'll have to come in for each of these lots when they actually want to build on them.
So I see you've got, in your note here, recommendation on the condition of grading and drainage issues be addressed. So would that be a condition of a motion, do you envision?
Yeah, and Pete's already kind of talked about that
Yeah.
in his remarks, so I'm confident that they'll be able to address it. But yes, I do think that should be a condition of any motion of approval.
Yeah, if I might add to that point as well, the well and septic review at the county, it requires a grading plan to set grades on, really on the septic fields and the homes and arrange the lots. So that work, it's really already done. It's, I brought it with me if anyone has questions, but you probably don't. But it's already been done, and you know, obviously we have the same builder going to be working on all 4 lots, so that keeps it straightforward.
Okay. Okay, any other questions, or any questions for Joe and his report?
I do.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Joe, should we have Dana note for the record that 2 little edits on your memo, since it'll be part of the package?
Oh,
No,
yeah, I
no.
can just email her about it.
Okay.
For the street trees, so there need to be 1 per lot?
It's 1 per lot, yeah. So, so you have a choice as to where to put it.
I think they'll all end up with at least one.
Yes, I'm guessing that in the end, they'll probably all have more than 1 tree
Yep.
on them.
Joe, because it's final approval, it goes to the board.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, anybody like to make a motion? All right, I'll go ahead and make a motion to recommend approval to the board. Final site condo review for Christina's Crossing, parcels 140129-100-031 and 029. Conditional upon satisfactory compliance with the grading and drainage issues is noted by the engineering letter, subject to at least one tree being planted per lot. And Joe, do we need to call out the sidewalk fund, or is that already accounted for? That's just part of the process.
Because there is a note on their plan stating that that's their intent, so it's incorporated into the plan already.
Okay. Did I miss anything then?
Got a question for Joe. Should the master deed language, should that be included in the motion as well?
It's really approved separately, so I don't think you need to actually include it in your motion.
All right, thanks.
Ultimately, it's the attorney who has the final stamp on that one, so.
Okay.
So I have a question as well. The application has completely different parcel numbers on it than the review has on it. So I don't know which is right.
What do you got there, Pete?
Yeah, the correct parcel numbers are 01-29-175-001 and -002.
Okay.
So those parcel numbers are new. They were established by the original condo.
That's part of the same
Yeah.
correction at the top of the thing. Is that where you got it, Jared? At the top of Joe's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Daniel, would you just amend my motion to
Absolutely.
correct the parcel numbers 140129175001 and 002?
Yeah, Macomb County's map hasn't updated yet, so.
No.
All right, is there a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Barnett. Any other discussion? Dana, would you call the roll, please?
Boyce,
Yes.
Hagelstein,
Yes.
Jay Vincent,
Yes.
Dee Vincent,
Yes.
Barnett,
Yes.
Blaylock,
Yes.
Cant.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, you too. All right, that wraps up item 8 for reviews. 9 is communications. I don't believe there are any. So that takes us to item 10, unfinished business. So first up in 10 is our lighting discussion. So we've got, Joe, I think you provided some updated language and proposed ordinance changes for lighting.
I did.
How do we want to do this? You want to do that first? Rick, it looks like you provided something. Did you provide this?
Yeah, I can, maybe have Joe go first, but before we get into Kelvin discussion and the percentage stuff, I'd just like to do, just go over this list briefly that, did some actual physical benchmarking last night. Kelvin values in Bruce and some in Washington as well. And then also Mandy asked that I bring in an actual 1600 lumen selectable Kelvin value bulb, which I have in that fixture, that I like to put up on a ladder, turn off the lights, make it real quick, just show you what the different hues look like.
Okay. All right, Joe.
Right, so I highlighted the changes from last time, just so they'd be real easy to locate and talk about. So a couple of them are little punch outs where it says TBD, where you've got to determine an actual number. And then a couple other things are little additions that we talked about last time, or things that moved because we favored one thing over another. So you've got, I'm going to skip the TBDs for now, and we'll come to those. But under C, there's a note about house side shielding. So we had kind of 5 and 1 sort of talked past each other, and we consolidated that into number 1. And I added the little house side shielding thing, just noting that that's one tool you can use to accomplish the goal that's set out there. And house side shielding can be bought with basically any modern fixture. I added a line for color temperature, but we left a TBD for the Kelvin. We were getting closer to some agreement on that last time. But we can kind of make a call tonight. And then I also added the word selectively to number 13. So not huge changes from last time, but let's talk about those 3 TBDs. So one is we have our applicability section, where a site plan proposes a new use, a new building or an addition or change of use leading to an increase of blank % or more in terms of additional dwelling units, total gross ground floor area of an entire building, indoor seating capacity or parking spaces. All outdoor lighting on the site shall be brought into compliance with this chapter. So that's a matter of establishing a threshold over which a plan will require all the lighting on the site to become compliant. The numbers that were discussed last time were 30% and 50%. So
No, 25 or 50.
25 or 50. So it's a matter of, for the planning commission, figuring out where you want that threshold to be. One of those numbers or somewhere in between. 50% obviously is a major project. You're doing a lot on the site. 25%, it really kind of depends on the size of the site, whether or not that's a major project. If it's a very small site, it's probably not a very major project, but if it's a large site, it's going to be a very large addition. So if you have a huge building and you're adding 25% to it, or expanding the parking lot or something, that's probably a substantial amount of area that's being lit. So it's really a matter of, do you want to be, kind of more rigorous about bringing things into line, or less rigorous? And if you're in the 25 range, then it's going to be a more rigorous standard. And if you're 50, it's going to be less rigorous. So you might wind up, if you go with the higher threshold, I think one of the things to think about if you go with the higher threshold is over time you might wind up with a bunch of sites that have kind of a weird mismatch between compliant and non-compliant fixtures. Going with a lower threshold, you'll get fewer of those instances.
Joe, would this just be for places that are grandfathered in?
Well,
If somebody's not in compliance and they have a
anybody who's
zoning-
not in compliance right now is non-conforming, so they don't have to make any changes. But if you come in with a plan and you're changing your site and you cross whatever threshold we set, that's when your non-conformity has to be brought into compliance.
Okay.
So is this impact of this particular provision, it will apply to residential, correct?
It wouldn't apply to someone's house. This is anything that requires a site plan.
Okay, so then that would take that to be commercial or industrial.
Usually, yeah, office, commercial, industrial. There could be some other instances like certain agribusiness or something.
Outside of the Kelvin issue, which we haven't discussed, do we have that many that are not compliant because they're old?
Yeah, I mean, a lot, I would say most of our sites are probably predate the current lighting. That doesn't necessarily mean they're all non-compliant or non-conforming. Some of them might be compliant, but there are a substantial number of developments, particularly outside of the industrial area, that are not currently conforming.
Question for you, Joe. Do you know the last time the lighting ordinance was revised? I know it was created approximately 2002.
There was a revision in 2019-ish or something like that. It wasn't a huge revision, but there was some work done to it then.
So much of our new development along 33 Mile Road falls under the current state.
A lot of the new, a lot of the industrial development particularly occurs along Cordy and Beaver Creek. That's mostly where you've got the newer sites.
I have to look at the old language to see in when Orchard Grove was created, but this may be a good time for me to take and address this list that I pulled together last night, and some of the additional observations that are not included here. I tried to assemble this in descending Kelvin value. One thing I noticed is the first building on Corte Road on the right-hand side, the poles are 4,000 Kelvin, but what they've done is they put 5,000 Kelvin sconces up probably 30 feet. And I mean, it's very, very bright. And, that's new construction, and based on our existing ordinance language, lighting sources, bulbs, or lenses for non-residential properties shall not be visible from adjoining properties rights of way, and no light shall cast glare onto adjacent roadways. That site I just mentioned, that's a clear violation. To Clark, they've got rear east-facing floods that are very, very bright. RCC Automotive, which is towards the east end on the south side of 33 Mott Road, they've got about a 45-degree angle Kelvin being used as a floodlight that is blinding. Van Dyke Liquor across from Sheena's, similarly, they got another 5,000 Kelvin on a 45-degree angle that is very bright. VFW Hall, they got a north-facing flood that's a 5,000 Kelvin, also angled and very, very bright. Also, I call it the Walker Pole Building. It's right next to Bruce Technology Drive. It's just west of that. He's got a 45-degree angle, 5,000 Kelvin flood. 42nd District Court, I was surprised there. Those Kelvin values are 5,000, but I didn't have a foot candle meter to measure what the actual level of that 5,000 hue was, but it came in with a Kelvin meter at 5,000, but it didn't look nearly as bright as the other ones. Middle school, their sign consistently registers 5,000. Their poles are 4,650. Sheena's 4,700. Orchard Grove, they're a mixture of 4,000 and 5,000. Actually, the only 5,000 bulb that I was able to identify is they've got it on a 45-degree angle at their dumpster. Beaver Creek Drive, that's next to the Walker Building just to the east. That's, Beaver Creek Drive is next to DeClark's. That's nicely done at 4,000. Times Square, the wall sconces on the building are 2,700. Their poles are 4,000, but they don't have that many of them. Bruce Tech Drive, that's next to the Walker Building, that's 2,500. And Anne Marie asked me to measure Deer Park, that's very low at 700. Moving down to Washington Township, I got Fifth Third Bank. They've got 4,000 Kelvin poles, but they got some upward-facing 5,000 light that, is outward-facing glare. And coincidentally, right across the street is Fight Eye Care, and their wall sconces are only $12.50. So it's a huge contrast just right across the street. Arby's $5,000, Friendly Jeep $5,000, Culver's $4,000, Old Kmart $4,000, Kroger $36.50, Heidelberg $3,600, and the Vanessa Center, which is that, it's down by the Sherman-Williams Paint. It was that building that was vacant for many years. Their wall sconces are $34.50, and the poles are $4,000. So anyway, thank you for allowing me to interject that information. Back to you, Joe.
So it appears that at least on the Kelvins, we have quite a few that wouldn't be in compliance.
Yeah, it does, and, but it also sounds like the mounting is, there's a lot of sites that have things at 45 degrees and, other, issues, possibly taller poles than what's allowed now and things like that.
Some of this is new construction, and, even the pole heights, we're stating a maximum of 20 feet. I didn't measure them, but just, many look to be higher than 20. And also, I don't know if there's more than one, but I know at least one of the luminescence meters is in Mike Philbrook's office that'll measure foot candle. So, pole height, we obviously don't have a Kelvin restriction, but, the light trespass past the property lines, clearly more than one property is in violation. And this is relatively new construction. I mean, probably Orchard Grove is one of the older developments out there. And I mean, how many years ago was that built? Does anybody know? It's not that old, but, it all alludes to why has this been allowed to happen?
Well, the interesting thing that, like, some of those would have come before this commission to get approval, so did they deviate from the approved photometric plans?
Well, yeah, I mean, we always look at the photometric plan and say, well, they say 20 feet and they say the right light levels, but
Yeah,
once it's past the planning commission,
right, I mean, it becomes a
Yeah.
code enforcement issue, but it doesn't seem like that's
Well,
regularly happening.
before enforcement, I can't say for sure because I have not checked with the building department. But I think this more falls into a board responsibility than planning commission unless Joe directs otherwise. But I mean, I would be interested in knowing if there's actually the verification for the foot candle and the Kelvin especially has to occur when it's dark out. So are there dark hours inspections taking place? Is there any documentation within the building department to verify that what is on the lighting plan is what was actually built? I mean, the Corte building, I would bet that does not match up. So that's just one.
Yeah.
So anyway, somebody else's turn.
So, Joe, on the applicability percentages, I guess part of what factors in my mind of like what the percentages, how high or low the percentages would be how significant have we changed the lighting ordinance? If it's a massive change and we want to enforce that, then I think the percentages should be lower. If the changes are relatively minor, then I feel like the percentage should be higher because it's not a significant change that would need to be made to be in conformance.
okay.
Does that make sense?
I think,
The rationalities, like,
Well, why not try to bring everyone into compliance if we have an opportunity? I would think a lower number.
well, I think it just balances the hardship that creates. If we said 25%, and let's just hypothetically say it's 1,000 square foot, I mean.
Well, what are they mostly doing? Changing light bulbs? Or, and I don't know the answer to that.
yeah, I
Is
mean,
it,
it just- I
are
guess
they
it depends.
having to completely redo all their fixtures or just add some shielding if you can do it after the fact or change a light bulb? It might not be a major.
It's
thing,
gonna
but,
vary a lot from,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, on some sites, it might be, take the light that's like this and do this. And like that, now you're compliant, congratulations. In other cases, it might be, you might have to adjust the settings on the light or change a fixture. It really depends on what site. Most sites are using LEDs at this point, so there's some customizability. There's probably still some sodium vapor
Could it
fixtures out
require
there.
changing poles? Was there a time where pole height was higher than 20 feet?
I don't recall offhand adding something about pole height in 2019. So I'm not sure how long that pole height standard has been around, but I believe it predates 2019. It's number 5 there, on the bottom of page 3. The height of non-residential lighting fixtures, including the base measured from established grade, shall not exceed 20 feet. I believe that standard has been in place for quite a long time. If you do have to bring a pole down, there's a couple things you can do. Sometimes you replace the pole, and sometimes you literally cut the pole and lower the fixture. Depends on the quality of the pole, really. If you got a crummy old pole that's kind of, in bad shape, you probably would replace it.
Other thoughts, commissioners, on thresholds for item B applicability? And Joe, just to be clear, the first one is an addition, or are they both additions? Like, what is the,
The
What-
first TBD is just, it's the same number goes in both of those TBDs.
oh, okay,
It's just that one is saying if you're at or over, then you've got to do the replacement, and the other one's saying if you're under, you don't have to bring everything into compliance. It's just the new stuff that needs to be compliant.
only the new stuff, okay.
Yeah.
What if we went somewhere in between, like 35 or 40%?
What's the purpose of that?
Well,
Just
just
to
a-
meet in the middle for us, or?
Well, like Jared said, it could make, a difference of like light compliance or heavy compliance for it. So,
So a question on this as well, if I read this correctly, you might not be increasing your building size at all, but if you're increasing the seating capacity in a building that you have, that you might not be utilizing. If I have a restaurant with 20 seats now, and I add 10, or, whatever, I would have to come up, even though I haven't changed the footprint of my building, my parking lot, I haven't changed anything, I've just changed seating capacity. Is that right?
Yeah, the way it's written now, if you were changing the capacity of a building, yes, that would apply. That doesn't necessarily have to be left in there, if that makes you uncomfortable.
Well, I'm just trying to look at things where, it may not really have anything to do with the exterior of the building at all, and then we're asking people to come to a different standard.
You're talking more brick and mortar, right, David? Versus,
I can understand that if you're adding on to your building, you're making the physical building larger, and I probably would not be comfortable at 25% at all, but I understand if you're making the building larger, then this would be more applicable than just changing something within the structure itself that doesn't impact the outside at all.
Let me pick on LaFonda's they have X number of seats in there now, you know, with room for the restaurant. But they have banquet room along the side. If they decide, you know, the better option for our business is to eliminate
The
that
banquet.
banquet room and to create more seating there, let's say half of it, we're gonna make seating. Nothing's changing on the outside of the building.
Sure.
At certain times, there may be a few more cars there, but they have parking, sufficient parking. So that would seem a little weird that we would make them go change their lights, because, I don't know, they added 20 tables.
Yeah, I could see that, I could see taking that out and just leaving it at,
It's,
you're adding
it's,
square footage or you're adding to the parking.
it's different than, to me, than if they wanted to put an addition on their building, if
Sure.
there was
Right.
room to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, structurally dependent, basically what we're,
So anybody got any further feedback? I mean, is that the way we're kind of leaning, that
Let's see if there's anything else in here like that.
Well, I think some of these other things in here, kind of all a new use, a change of use. Again, if the structure itself isn't changing, I'm not sure why that warrants.
yeah?
Well, it's only if you've got to have a
I
site
tend to
plan.
agree taking it out. Anybody have a problem with it? Okay, seems like a reasonable,
I think the intent is the structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Joe, you said it's only if it requires a site plan.
Yeah, because it's a new use, a new building or addition or change of use leading to an increase of X% or more. So if you're not doing that, if you're establishing a new use, but you're not changing the building, then you're not going to hit that threshold.
Yeah.
And especially if we take out the indoor seating capacity.
All right, so it sounds like there's support for updating the language to be more specific around building modifications, building footprint modifications. So then it comes down to the threshold.
Yeah, well, let's try to land on something as a group here. I know there's two people who are leaning toward 25. I know there's one person who said he's not comfortable with 25. Where's everybody else?
I would like to see higher than 25 as well.
Daryl?
I'd be leaning more toward the 50, a little less.
how about if we end up somewhere in the middle, like 33%?
1/3.
Yeah, it's rather than, I'm basing that as, we go quarter, third, half.
I'm okay with third. 33% increase. It's just still a pretty good size increase.
How's that sitting with the rest of the planning commission? 33%?
That's fine with me.
Okay, I like a third, Mandy's third, Daryl's third, anybody else?
Yeah, I would settle with that.
Okay, anybody else have any comment on that?
Yeah, 4.
Okay.
Okay, 33% it is.
Okay,
And that leaves the other TBD, which is down at 11 on page 4. The color temperature of all lighting shall be a maximum of Kelvin. Rick, is this where you want to do your?
yeah, I'll do the demo. So if you can do the lights, Joe, so I'm gonna put this thing up on a ladder and try and make it.
Okay, I'm not going to turn the lights off until you've finished doing something with the ladder.
Yeah.
Good thinking.
I just think batteries generally go better with lights.
Good call, Joe.
Stand on it. Okay, this is a, okay, so this bulb that Mandy asked me to get, okay, the lowest value is 2,700, then it goes 3,000, then 3,500. But for David's prior research, and my research concurs with David's, that 3,500 is not readily available, especially for these pole lights. It goes 3, 4, 5 generally. Okay, so again, the bulb, I'm gonna go through each one of them, and I'll tell you what it is.
So do you have one brighter than 35?
Yeah, it goes all the way up to 5,000.
Okay.
Okay, so this is 2,700, okay? And that's 3,000. Okay. That's 3,500. And this is 4,000. And this is 5,000. Okay, so I'm gonna put it back to 4,000 for a reason here. Come on. Just make sure. Okay, that's 4. So you heard me make a case for 3,000 in prior meetings. Per the benchmarking I did last night, I don't think 3,000 is adequate. And the 4,000 that I saw, especially the new stuff, like on Corte, it looks very nice. It's still got I'll call it a bit of an amber cast. It's not a blue light like the 5,000 is. So anyway, that's my observation. So anybody want to see any more, or?
What
How
one is
low
it?
does that thing go? I'm just curious.
I'm sorry?
How low does that thing go?
As far as Kelvin value? 2,700.
Oh, gotcha, 27.
Yeah, 2,700. So that's the 5,000, because I'm right next to it. And
Yeah.
that definitely is a blue light. That's blinding. So that's 2,700.
Gotcha, okay, it's like a desk lamp, yeah.
So that's the equivalent of a soft white bulb.
Yeah.
So,
Rick, I have a question,
sure.
not about that, but what you're doing there. But you said that you verified that for more of commercial lighting, that 3,500 really isn't available. Is
Correct.
that what you said?
Yeah, David researched that, and I did as well, and I couldn't find anything.
Well, then how did your chart here show that
Good question.
Kroger is
I-
36 roughly, Heidebright's 36?
I think what happens that over time, I think the LEDs degrade because they are made up of an array of, it's not just a single filament. And as those little bulbs burn out, I think it definitely lowers the foot candle value.
There are also kind of films or membranes or something over them. And when
Yeah.
they fail catastrophically, that's when you see purple streetlights.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, you're talking about filters.
Yeah,
Correct.
filters.
And so I had no way of knowing if they had any filters to
Got it, thank
modify
you,
the Kelvin. That could be the case.
thank you.
It probably more likely is the case because, you know, Heidebright's bulbs have been in existence for quite a while, and it's a consistent lighting across their operation, so probably more likely filter. Sure. Any other questions?
Any questions for Rick before we turn the lights back on?
Okay.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, thanks for your time.
So Rick, it sounds like your recommendation is, fill in the blank, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Fill in the blank for me, I don't want to put words in your mouth. You, sounds like your recommendation is,
I think 4,000 looks very nice.
okay. And I think last meeting, there was some agreement on 4,000 as a potential value, so it sounds to me like that's probably where we're landing.
I'm fine with 4.
4.
Yeah.
4. Yeah, sounds like we got support for 4.
That was helpful, thank you.
I'm sorry?
That was helpful, thank you.
All right. well,
Bravo, Rick.
4,000, so I can make those changes and, unless there's anything else.
Joe, would we, you're going to make some edits in items 2 and the applicability 2 and 3 to take out stuff that's happening internally?
Correct.
Should we look at this one more time once you make those edits? Because if we don't, I think the next step would be is a public hearing.
Yes, a public hearing would be the next step. And I think that the changes here, I mean, we're filling in 3 blanks, 2 of which are the same blank, and taking out a phrase that's been well identified. So I don't know that there's going to be any surprises when you see it next. So I think if you're comfortable, you could set a hearing.
So would, eliminating the indoor seating, but what about change of use?
That still would remain because it's a change of use that leads you to go over the threshold. So it's not just any change of use. If you were in a small retail building and you changed to a hair salon or something, you wouldn't have to do anything.
So what exactly is the new use? I'm confused. If there's a building that's, say, a retail, a store right now, and it changes to a hair salon, is that a new use or no?
It is, but it's not a new use that would put you over the threshold because you're not changing the building.
Right, so it's a change of use that leads to an increase
Got it.
of 33% or
Okay.
more in terms of additional
So-
dwelling units, total gross area. So that's probably the language that
Okay.
just needs to be cleaned
Yeah,
up.
so if you had a small retail building and then you wanted to put a restaurant in it, you might need a lot more parking. So you might find yourself adding a lot of parking to that lot or something like that, or even increasing the square footage or something. That's when you're starting to get into the territory where you might hit the threshold.
Joe, just to Henry's question, because that language in item 2 is going to get reworked before we see it, before the next meeting, if we just voted to schedule a public hearing, if when we get to the next meeting and we look at the language, could we amend it prior to the public hearing?
You can, you'd probably do it after the hearing, but yes, you can on the table. And also, I would say if you make a motion to set a hearing tonight, you would say as revised, so that we catch the revisions in the motion. But yes, you can make changes to it at the hearing.
Okay.
That's
Just to give us ourselves flexibility, if for some reason, I think I'm confident you understand the feedback
Yes.
of this. So I'm not overly concerned, but just in the event that there was some reason to want to change something, so it sounds like if everyone's comfortable with that, we could propose to move forward in a way that gives us some flexibility just to make a small edit on the fly. Any other discussion? You want to own this one? Really, you should.
Go for it, Rick.
We're basically, I'd like to submit a motion for a public hearing regarding changes to the Bruce Township lighting ordinance. Can I just say as amended per Joe's October 28th, 2025 lighting memo and per revisions as discussed at this planning commission meeting. Need any more specifics than
Yeah,
that?
just as revised at this planning commission meeting is fine, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Rick.
Second.
Second, motion by Commissioner Hagelstein, second by Commissioner Cant. Any other discussion? Dana, would you call the roll, please?
Blaylock,
Yes.
Cant,
Yes.
Barnett,
Yes.
Boyce,
Yes.
Hagelstein,
No. I mean, yes. Want to make sure you're listening.
Jay Vincent,
Yes.
Steve Vincent.
Yes.
No.
Rick's got jokes tonight.
Yeah, we got to have some levity. One last thing, and we touched on it a bit already about how to prevent and enforce lighting going forward. And I mean, Joe, would you agree that it's more of a board activity than a PC activity? Or, I mean, can we submit a motion requesting it be brought forward to the board? Would be something that we respectfully request David, if he's in agreement, to bring that topic before the board.
That's the purpose of the liaison. So the liaison can communicate to the board, and there's no motion or anything. It's
Does this need to be board? You're talking about the
ultimately anything to do with enforcement or the final inspection of an installation is going to be within the board's jurisdiction.
Okay.
The planning commission reviews the plan. But yeah, if there's any direction for change to those processes, that comes from the board.
I would have two suggestions with that in mind. If we're going to ask, and David thinks we should, that would be something he wants to bring forward. The first is, if we're inspecting things before a certificate of occupancy is given, and somebody's got to come out and, look at the electrical and the plumbing and the mechanical. To me, it seems so simple to have them, might make them have to drive out at night, but there should be just some key things that are checked in the ordinance,
There's only 4 things to check,
okay?
which are pole height, foot candles at the lot lines, Kelvin, and what's the 4th?
Well, shielding and angle.
No light trespass, as you've mentioned in your memo, that's it.
Yeah, pole height can be measured anytime, of course, but yes, the other things do need to be measured in the dark.
I just think that's uncommon. I don't know that inspectors go out in the evenings. I've never heard of that, so.
I think the board would probably push back as well because overtime is a big issue. They don't like paying overtime when it's not necessary.
But I think it's reasonable to ask that there be validation of the things on the plan. Is this the right light fixture? Is the height correct? A lot of that I think could largely be done during the day, daytime hours.
Well, if they can demonstrate that the bulbs that are in the fixture are actually no more than 4,000 Kelvin, for example.
Right.
That could be validated.
The majority of it has got to be done, nighttime. I mean, the Kelvin, but the pole height you can do during the daylight.
Yeah.
And with the verification of light trespass, that's got to be nighttime.
But isn't that part of the photometric plan? So assuming,
The poles are in the right
It
place.
is, but then
Yeah.
you have to calibrate it correctly to meet the photometric plan, so.
Gotcha.
Sometimes it's not done on the ground.
But using Anne Marie's word, validation, it's not being validated. You know, it's just like we accept the lighting plan and hopefully the way it's built out is the way the lighting plan was presented. But I beg each one of you to go down 33 Mile Road and the first building on the right on Corte Road. Take a look at it. It's very, very revealing. And that building was just built.
Yeah.
David, I don't think, I mean, the inspectors, they're not on the payroll, so it wouldn't be overtime.
Okay.
I don't think. I'm imagining
Yeah, I don't know how they work.
we pay them,
Permit fee.
Yeah, I know, I'm not sure either. I know that they,
right, I agree
Whatever
with
hours
you
they
on
go out,
overtime,
they-
but if we're just paying the person, I'm making this up.
Yeah.
$500 per inspection or something like that, then, that would assumedly increase if they had to make a trip out at night. But, I mean, how do we calculate the permitting cost to begin with? I mean, do you add another $25 onto the permit? I don't know the answer.
the building department handles that.
I guess I would just maybe suggest we make it more of a generic question to the board, which is how, I think, express maybe some concern that we don't necessarily believe that the current lighting ordinance is being properly enforced. And so maybe the question is, how does the board view that as
How is that
some,
validated?
yeah, how can this be corrected or validated going forward?
I think validated comes first, and then, because if it's not validated, it falls into enforcement, it falls into Mike Philbrook's queue. And I just think that if the board is willing to come up with some sort of creative solution for the validation, it would alleviate the amount of enforcement that Mike's having to do.
True.
Okay, there was two.
Oh,
Two suggestions.
No, I'll hold, it went to enforcement, but
Okay.
honestly, I do think that if you stem it at the front end,
Okay. I will bring that up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. All right, that takes us to item 10B, master plan discussion. So this would be a continuation from the October meeting. We made it partway through the maps.
I think we got all the way up Van Dyke.
Did we finish Van Dyke?
I think so.
Okay.
We were discussing the northern part of Van Dyke at the end of our last discussion. And now, I guess I'll just note that we have had a comment tonight about the very north end of Van Dyke.
Right. And Joe, just to reiterate, I know there will be interest in having feedback of this. Once we finish reviewing all the parcels that have been identified, that would then lead to the town hall directly next, or is there a step in between that?
Once you have a draft,
Yeah.
the town hall is the next step.
Okay. And that would allow everybody in the township that's interested in providing feedback to come and
Correct.
voice that feedback.
Yeah,
And there two or one?
there's one.
One, okay.
And there's a public hearing as well, but at that point, you're past the town hall.
Okay.
Could we have two town halls if we wanted?
Good.
You're looking at your land use map, or you're looking at the zoning ordinance?
This one was the zoning ordinance. All right, Joe, where do we start?
Well, I'm going to recommend that you address the substance of your earlier commenter, just so that you've discussed it. You have received a couple of letters from the property owner, Eric Boardman and Van Dyke, and I think that it's the only property owner we've heard from. So I think that some further discussion is warranted.
Okay.
I'm going to attempt to very quickly sum up the substance of what this property owner is saying. And I think you all can obviously take that and make a decision. But his point is that he has non-residential to the south. Almont, I did verify that Almont zoning map has commercial at the corner across the street. There
I
are
did
some
as well.
houses across the street, across Boardman as well. And then to the west, you've got Van Dyke, and then there's that kind of weird dead zone between Hip and Van Dyke. There's like, the Hip Road is parallel to Van
Yeah.
Dyke there, and then it comes into, it's a really bizarre arrangement. So it comes into Boardman like 50 feet from Van Dyke. It's not a great setup there, but it creates a weird little barrier there. Because nothing can really get built between Hip and Van Dyke. So another thing to think about on that property is Almont doesn't have commercial all the way down Boardman along the whole length of that. It's at the corner. But you don't necessarily have to consider the entire property either. You can think about the corner itself. The nearest residential is immediately east on a fairly large lot.
Did we figure out what was across the street from that?
Yeah, there's like 4 houses across Boardman.
No, across.
West side of Van
Dyke.
Dyke, that barn.
It wasn't on Anne Marie's list, I don't think. Like,
That's-
the address was missing.
West side of Van Dyke.
You mean where
Remember
that
the
little
old
lake is?
Goikis?
That new barn?
Yeah, I know, yeah, but that's the property we're talking about.
It's just a, pie shaped piece.
Yeah, I guess it's a little south of there. It is across from the Henry Ford.
It's more across from the Henry Ford, yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I said, across Van Dyke, it's that strange, it doesn't really seem to be private property between Hip and Van Dyke. There's nothing you can really do on that land. It's just like this bizarre spit of land that's just, it doesn't have a function. You couldn't meet a setback there.
Right. But that's a separate parcel.
It is, yeah, it's, hang on, Macomb County GIS will give me better.
Yeah, that's White.
Which one?
Yeah, I'm talking about, the shop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's all, that sliver is really unusable.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually maintained by the neighbor. He's a mower, there's nothing to put on there.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah, let's see, I can actually,
There's a creek.
Oh, this is
right there.
interesting.
South of the creek is the site that he built on, but nothing with that creek.
so the, width of the property between Hip and Van Dyke for its north 200 or 300 feet. Hang on a second, I can actually give you the measurement. Yeah, for its north, well, more like 400 feet is, let's see. The width of that property is 13 feet. So you're clearly not going to be building anything on it. So there's pretty literally 2 roads between this and the next property you could actually put something on.
Okay. So, commissioners, any additional thoughts based on what we've heard tonight from the property owner? Any reconsideration of future land use?
I have a couple of observations.
Okay.
We already have nodes of commercial going up Van Dyke. We have a node at, and this
There's one at
is,
36. 36 Mile, I think, was the first
well,
one.
we have
Next one down.
actually at 34 in Van Dyke. It's future zoned, that 15 acres at the end of the expressway for commercial. We have another commercial node, at least as exists now, at Van Dyke and Evelyn. We have another commercial node at 36 in Van Dyke. So we've already got, it up Van Dyke. Our master plan has long stated that people who live here, and our master plan is in part premised on the fact that people expect to travel for their commercial needs. That's been in our master plan for decades. We have the survey, and well, it was reflective of 300 or 400 people's input. It exactly aligns with what our master plan already says. The vast preponderance of the people, and I have it in here somewhere, said they want to go, they expect and they have no issue going elsewhere for their needs. The other reason I feel that we're all still in premature discussions, and this is to me all preliminary. We've said what we're thinking. We still have more than half of our commercial and industrial properties to review. And we have a very big chunk of commercial properties that are already designated commercial at 33 and McKay at the roundabout. So I think we have to get through everything, go back and revisit what Joe gave us to begin with that shows where existing commercial is already developed, where we have existing zoned commercial that's vacant or has an old building on it or something like that, and also what we have by way of future commercial designation. And I think right now that's the 15 acres at 34 in Van Dyke. So, to me, I need to look at all of it before I make a final opinion on adding yet another node up Van Dyke. We already have it.
We haven't had any public hearings yet either.
No, we haven't, absolutely. To me.
Right, but I think we have to have that initial draft before the public hearing to get them to
Exactly,
respond
I
to.
understand that.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm looking at is we even asked about agricultural-related commercial. And that didn't get high support in the survey. Again, that was 400 people. But I think to me personally, I have to take this all in before I jump to making any big changes.
Sure. Other comments or thoughts?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Ebling Road node was, we talked about putting that back to residential last time.
That's what I thought.
I
as well.
believe that was where I think there was a little bit of disagreement, but I believe that's where we landed
Right.
last time.
It is there now, but we talked about changing it for the future. But
Right.
again, all that to me goes on a grid that shows what we have now, and based on our preliminary thinking, how does that all stack up? The other concern I have is every time we add a node, then to me, okay, we're going to do it on this side of the street. That intersects the same way on that side of the street. Well, then what's going to happen on the other side of the street? You can get into a snowball's effect, which is why I think we have to be very cautious.
Just make a little comment on some of the things that you mentioned. I think this area, I would like to see at least be a consideration. And, I think the reason I would say that is, again, we'll have to look at I like the idea, we'll look at the final plan and see where it falls, but to make this at least a consideration, I think it does hold some water. And when you mention people in our township are willing to drive to get to their commercial sites, one of those sites would be Elmont. And this property borders Elmont. So it is right across the street. It's the farthest removed you can get from our township without physically leaving the township. So if we were to look at what the residents' wants and needs are, that would be an area that would be the farthest they would go. Because again, right across the street is going to be commercial anyways. Elmont's going to have it. So if we're going to have something that's going to be busier, maybe putting it next to something that's already busy would be a good solution. So I just think that it may be something to think about. With the road situation over there, I'm very familiar with the Hip Road area in Boardman. It is a mess. It's really it is a site that, again, how they were designed, it's not gonna house anything. That may be an option. So I would like to put that out there as a possibility to think about later. See where the other sites fall, see what kind of kick or pushback we get from our residents. That may fall into a better position later, so it's just.
Yeah, well, one consideration is when you do go into a town hall environment, if there's any consideration of that site as anything other than what it is now, you want that to be reflected, so that there is a chance for people to respond.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If the residents are, if for some reason, if that comes back as being positive for the residents, I think we should at least leave it out there for an option. Because there are some, what Mr. Whisker was saying, there are some things that jump out at us is it is farther removed from people. That is our biggest pushback is I don't want it in my backyard. That does have some considerations.
Well, and not that, I agree with that, and I think not that it matters what Elmont does per se, but I do think it's interesting if everything north of this property is zone commercial and the properties to the south of this are office.
Yes, if people are complaining about commercial, but 60 feet away is more commercial, we're gonna, maybe that is our better option.
60 feet away in what direction?
I'm just saying that if you were to cross the street, you're gonna be in commercial in Elmont, so even if our residents say we don't want commercial, you're gonna have it 60 more feet away, so if we do happen to have commercial, let's try to group it with the other stuff. keep our area more rural, push things out the side. Just an option. That's it, once residents speak, you can take the information and kind of like we should, make a better decision. And maybe we do it, maybe we don't, but just kind of keep it as an option. Just,
I'd be in agreement with that. It's, to have that area commercial, if someone's gonna develop in Elmont, they have an option to do it in Bruce Township. And that would bring tax revenue into our community rather than into Elmont.
That is true, but one of the things that was the purpose of the survey, and I also think this was spoken to pretty succinctly, is that people are willing to trade, the rural environment versus extra commercial and extra industrial, that would help supplement the tax base. I mean, that was really clear. So I wouldn't rule it out. I just think it would be a massive change. And the other point is that even though we designate it, we were to designate anything as a future use, for instance, right, we'll pick on the commercial, the 15 acres. Somebody could come in right now and say, well, I want to build a shopping center there or something, right? And then at that point, I mean, would a rezoning, they wouldn't even have to ask for a rezoning, would they?
Where is this now?
They would,
Here?
like at the 34 in Van Dyke.
Or any place
Right.
that's future zoned something.
If the future land use category is something that's different from the zoning map, they do have to ask for a rezoning, but it's supported by the future land use map.
Correct.
So they're likely to receive a yes in response to the rezoning request. But you do still have to go through the rezoning process.
Okay, so we have to go through the process and, hear what it's going to be and all that. But if we were to have a plan, a future plan for something to be commercial or industrial, and it's not that now, somebody could come in tomorrow and say, here's my rezoning request, I'm ready to go on it. It's part of your future plan.
Yes.
That's kind of a reality.
Yeah, it could happen anytime in the future,
Yep.
so.
Joe, you were saying though that if we were to consider putting it on a future land map as commercial, we could not do it for the entire parcel, but only a portion of it?
You can identify however, you have to think outside of property lines a little bit when you're doing a future land use map. You're identifying areas. It's not meant to be as granular as this property is this and this property is this and this property could never be that and this property could never be that. It's more general than that. So you can identify the corner here and say, this corner, some designation other than what it is now. And you don't have to color in the lines all the way. You can draw just the corner if that's what you're comfortable with. And ultimately, it becomes a matter of a discussion when the request comes in. Of, all right, what's the extent of the request? Does that seem reasonable?
So can we revisit this once we go through everything?
Sure.
Can discuss other things too. I think that we should probably mop up what's left on the west side of M53. There's a couple little things on the west side of M53 on this map that we haven't talked about yet.
The west,
Okay.
You're talking north of 34?
No, we're south of 34 at this point, west of M53, near the Township Hall. There's a couple of little things. There's a little bit of industrial there.
Well, we were gonna talk, we talked about this before, those things that are zoned office that are at the tip of,
Yeah, this is
Right there.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah,
So there's a couple of things here. There's the corner of Mellon and Gates, and then there's up McVicker Road where you've got some industrial properties. Well, let's start at the corner of Mellon and Gates. There is obviously the Macomb Family Services office is there. It's zoned office, planned office, it is an office. There's really no controversy there. It's the two houses to the east of Macomb Family Services. They have an office designation on the zoning map. I'm not sure exactly when that happened. It was when my predecessor took over the zoning map at the time, showed them as office. So somewhere in there in the aughts, maybe they got changed to office.
you're talking about the future.
The zoning is actually office.
No,
on
they're
those.
R1B.
I believe the zoning map shows them as office.
Yeah, current zoning does.
And has for,
Can
Quite a
somebody
while.
look it up on BSNA?
well, BSNA is not going to show you what it's zoned.
Sure it is.
BSNA usually reflects the land use. It might have a zoning designation, but
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
what it's doing.
necessarily accurate. It's not the official zoning map.
Well, at least we'll know if there's a difference between what's in BSNA and what's on the map.
Let me see here.
But it's definitely zoned office and has been for a while. The official zoning map, since at least 2010, has shown those two properties as office. And the last future land use map had them as office as well, I think probably reflecting the way they were zoned. But it's two houses. It's not office development. So the discussion is, what should the future land use designation of those properties be? And if BSNA has them listed as something other than office, it should be corrected to reflect
Yeah,
the official zoning map.
who puts that in there? Is that our assessing department?
I mean, and ultimately, they're the ones who are maintaining most of that data.
I'll
But I'm
find
not
out
sure,
tomorrow.
I'm not sure operationally who necessarily does
Yeah,
that.
I have a feeling it,
I don't know if that got put in there because that's the use. And it's houses, so it looks like it's zoned R1B, but it's not on the official zoning map.
So I think regardless of what it is zoned now, it shows, they both show office. And do we think that that is what they should be in the future?
Yeah, it's two houses now.
Yeah.
I know at one period of time, and I only know this researching old minutes, that the very last house on East Gates, just down here, it's a newer house. It's right on the corner, and it faces Mellon Street, actually.
It faces Mellon, yeah.
Yeah. That was vacant for a long time, and at some point, there was talk of, I think some guy might have wanted to put a dentist office or something in there, and that didn't fly. And then it eventually was purchased, and, I mean, logically, it's a residential street. You put it right there.
That's, you're talking the east side of Mellon.
Yes.
At Gates.
And
Gotcha.
one of these houses is directly across the street from it.
Yes.
It's a very little property, as I recall, .33 acres. I mean,
I could actually probably tell you what the acreage is.
I don't even think that would meet the standards for the office zoning.
The one on the corner,
This is a house.
Yes.
104
You must be
West
talking
Gate,
about This one, so
Yeah.
that's actually a melon, yeah.
I'm showing
Yes.
that as R1B.
In BSNA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not its actual zoning designation. That's wrong. The official zoning map shows it as office.
Well, so our assessing records are incorrect?
The zoning designation that is listed in BSNA is not correct.
Oh,
Because you only have one official zoning map, and BSNA is not your official zoning map, so. That property is 27,000 square feet, and the one to the north is,
Is that 70111 Mellon?
That's what it
Yes.
looks like.
yeah,
Yeah.
the one to the north is 14,000 square feet. So you have a 14,000 and a 27,000 square foot lot.
All right, I will just say I think they should be residential.
Certainly that melon one seems like it should be.
Yeah, the Gates one, I'm fine if that's, I don't have an issue with that staying in office. If it's on a busier street, more likely could be used as an office. But I think the Mellon one should be converted to residential.
Well, the one that's fronts solely on Mellon is a little less than 15,000 square feet, which is the minimum lot size in office. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for it to be zoned office,
Yeah.
and that it doesn't even meet the standard of the district. I mean, it is zoned office, but what's the feeling of the larger planning commission? It sounded like a one that's only on Mellon, you'd like to change. The chair is not firm on changing the other one, but could see changing it. What does everybody else think?
Well, there's three, right? One at the corner and then two on Mellon?
No, just one unknown.
There's just two lots.
Oh, is that, okay, that's the word that makes it look like there's a lot line there.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
all right.
the two that are directly east of Macomb Family Services.
Okay.
They're on page 4 of this document,
Yeah, at the top.
yeah.
I don't know, do you want to have an office on that hard curve right now? We have cars coming in and out.
I mean, I think that seems more reasonable than than that being a home.
It's a historic house.
Dana, I got a request.
Okay.
For 70111 Mellon and 104 West Gates, if you can bring to the attention of the assessor that it appears the assessing record does not match the zoning map, correct, Joe?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And Joe says the zoning map takes precedence, so. Thank you.
Sir.
All right, what are we doing with these parcels?
I think Mellon Street's more suited for residential. That'd be an easier one to start with.
For both of them? One is on Gates, right?
It has a Gates address,
Gates
but
address.
it's most of
Gates
its
slash
frontage is
okay.
on Mellon. It's directly across the street from 4 different houses.
Okay, so did we establish that everybody's in support of the second, the further back one on Mellon to be rezone to residential?
Yeah,
That seems like a good
yeah,
fit.
that's
Okay,
gotta
so
be
that
right.
one's done. The one with the Gates address that's also on Mellon, is there a strong, anybody have strong opinions to keep it office or to convert it to residential?
I would.
Which one?
I don't know if it's a strong opinion, but I would have 2 points in favor of making it residential. Number one is I don't see a use of that building as it is right now for an office. It's wholly different from the building where Macomb Family Services is, which was a massive, massive house. I think it's ill-suited to cram something else on Van Dyke, because I think as a house, it would be tore down and rebuilt as an office if you were going to make that an office. The second thing is there's very little uptake for office. And we've got some more appropriately designated office space on Van Dyke, where there's a better flow of traffic than at that particular corner.
Any thoughts?
To me, I don't see a positive in making it an office.
And the lot is .634 acre with 115 feet of frontage, 240 depth. You know, it's kind of got R1B written all over it.
I can see it either way, but it looks more residential to me, really.
Sounds like the,
I agree with that doesn't, I can see the office, I think a good area for office, but if it's residential, that's fine too. I agree with
Yeah.
Kevin, I couldn't-
sounds like there's,
Like I said, there's not really a huge need for office. And
You would almost need both lots to put an office there, one for a building, one for parking. I mean, realistically, if somebody wanted to put an office on the corner. So I would say put it back to residential.
all right, sounds like that's
All right.
the majority there, Joe.
Yep. So then going around the corner, I think we can skip past the BFW, but there's a couple of lots planned industrial there.
Yeah, at the bottom of
Yeah,
that one
and
page.
there are some industrial uses there. It's kind of right where McVicker bends.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, on the zoning map, that triangle between those lots and M53 is industrial. It's LI1.
Okay.
It's not on the future land use map that way. Should it be?
Where are you at now?
I'm at the bend in McVicker on the west side of M53.
Just before it goes over the overpass.
Yep.
So right now, there's Busy Bee, disposal is right there. Then how do you access that property that's in the corner?
It's a little funky. I think they've been basically cludging together their access for years by going across their neighbor.
Like come into one of the Busy Bee drives?
I'm pretty sure.
No, all
No.
those properties are,
It's technically
that we're talking
McVicker
about
Street.
are on the
Yeah,
north side of the
Yeah.
33.
Oh, north side, you're not
Yeah.
on the south side?
No.
Okay.
The north side
Yeah,
of the
so-
33 Mile Road bend.
Yeah, so it's all this up here.
Yes,
Yeah.
and this big triangle, that is industrial
Industrial,
currently. And then you go over
There's
here,
industrial in here as well.
that little pocket there. But it all backs up to
The trailer park.
the trailer park, and then this big chunk here is zoned R1B and it's vacant. So, in the future land use designation for these, the little ones there at the end of McVicker is residential.
Really?
Yeah, and there is one house back there that is a residence now.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause there's commercial businesses back there.
Yeah, there are.
That's
Yeah, they-
Apollo Fire and that's a
They've,
steel
they've
company.
been the source of a lot of contention with the residents there on, I know that our supervisors had to go out there a lot with the commercial businesses butting right up to the,
You mean the industrial businesses?
Yes, yeah.
At the very tail end of
Yeah.
McVicker?
yeah.
Going out to the mobile home park to the north?
No,
or
the, on Frank Drive there,
Okay, Frank
just,
Court.
yeah, just south of that, they're exposed to all the noise of the industrial, I guess it's some kind of a cabinet or a marble cutting or something loud.
Oh, yes, Regal
The
Surface
stone.
and Stone.
Stone
Yeah,
shop,
yeah,
yeah.
So I'm keeping in mind that you have industrial zoning and they're planned industrial on those little lots there. The question is really more about the triangle to the east, across that little extension of McVicker. That's zoned industrial, that triangle, that,
Yes, it is.
Big
And
triangle.
it butts right up to the expressway.
it does, it's right up against.
What is this one that shows it as orange, which is moderate density?
That's its-
Residential.
That's its future land use
Yes.
designation
That's the
right now.
future land use.
Yes.
So it's zoned industrial, but it's planned moderate density residential. Should it be planned industrial?
No, it's actually zoned, I think, multifamily,
It's
future,
zoned LI1. That triangle is zoned LI1.
future.
The future land use designation isn't industrial for it, it's moderate density residential, but, yeah.
And at one point, this was back around 2005, there, Lombardo bought that triangle.
The triangle to the north or the one on the west side of, are you talking about the one on the west side of M53?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's this little triangle right there. It's 33, goes to the expressway on the
Yeah.
side and to the end of McVicker.
Okay, yeah, we're
Yeah.
in the same place.
Lombardo bought that from the industrial property owner. And he came in and he asked for a rezoning to RM1, so multifamily, and it was granted in 2005. And time went on, and the deal fell apart. There were a lot of tax things going on. And in 2017, the industrial owner of that property got it back from Lombardo. And at that time, they came in and asked for the rezoning to change back to what it was. That was in 2017. It went from RM1 to M1, which is LI1. And in fact, after that, the company came in and got a IFT for development, and they actually had a site plan, and, it was going to be phased in, and then nothing happened. So in 2021, the board revoked the IFT because there was no development. But I think that's how, it's possibly how, for future purposes, the triangle got, tagged as.
Probably got changed to moderate density residential around the time of the rezoning, that never led to anything, and then it got rezoned back to industrial. So the question here is, should it be industrial on the future land use map, given that it was rezoned to industrial, which was its original designation in 2017?
I believe the only reason it was ever considered for residential was because Lombardo's had a plan.
Well, and I know one of the things that we've been talking about leading up to this was we had industrial properties on east of M53 that became residential.
Got chewed up.
Yeah, in fact,
So-
if you go directly north of this, there's a trapezoid there that's one of those properties, and then a little northeast of that, across from where Van Dyke comes into M53, there's a big triangle there that used to be industrial.
So to me, in light of giving up, or those other industrial uses getting reworked into becoming residential, I'd probably advocate it be industrial.
I would, that's where my logic went as well, because plus it's right on top of the expressway.
Right.
I mean, which is where industrial should be, if it's not on some corridor.
It's my backyard, too.
Other thoughts, comments?
That would move us across M53 over to the 33-mile corridor.
Okay.
And, I mean, there's a lot of industrial zoning over there, and I'm fairly certain we're not looking at changing any of that. I mean, most of it is, I was developing as industrial. I would say that the ones at the west end, on the south side of 33 Mile, there's some really odd and awkward property configurations there that make it really hard to do anything with the back of those properties.
Would you call them bowling alleys?
Yeah, they're kind of bowling alleys or like flag bowling
Flag,
alleys.
yeah,
They're,
there's a couple.
they're pretty weird. But ultimately, somebody could potentially put them all together and do something with them or something like that. Getting south of the creek there would be tough, but ultimately, it's probably going to be, at some point, someone's going to put some of them together and do something with them.
So it's all zone industrial right now,
Yeah, and that's.
and that's the
consistent
future
with
land use as
With
well.
its future land use plan,
Okay.
yeah.
Did we clarify what the piece just to the north of that is at the roundabout at 33 and McKay? There's like that 5 or 6 acre parcel.
Yes, there's a 6-acre parcel there that, it's slightly more than 6 acres. So on the northeast corner of the roundabout, you've got the commercial piece that was part of the big Raz property, and that's got an approved site plan for commercial. On the northwest corner, there's a consent judgment that allowed the housing subdivision to go in, and then the corner, 6.83 acres, I think it is, was reserved for commercial development in that consent judgment. So
Okay.
that's.
So the
that's-
future land use should be updated to show that as commercial.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. And that's what they're calling RHUD LLC.
Yes, yeah, I guess that's the holding company.
Right. So if, yes, then across where Rizzo, it's zoned C2, right there in the corner, they have an approved site plan. Should that also be commercial for future use?
Where's that now?
Right across the street, where
To the
Rizzo,
Oh, yeah, that should definitely be commercial, yeah, the northeast corner,
yes,
yes, that's definitely gonna change to commercial. And then to the north of that, where, those 170 units are going in, would go to moderate density residential.
Yeah.
And then you've got the, Orchard Grove complex there, the, industrial has to come a little bit west, because right now the boundaries don't really match up, but.
Okay.
I had a question on if you look at this sheet, it's B4 acquisitions. It was all part of that RAS stuff, parcels to begin with. And we have 2 parcels that are showing as C2. I thought that as part of the, I think it was the 6th or 7th amendment to the RAS conditional rezoning agreement, which was in the summer of, we actually got it here, spring, summer of 2004. I thought that we changed that back to manufacturing.
There's only one commercial property there, the direct corner property is
Yeah.
commercial, everything else is
Yeah,
LR1.
so that might be another, there's always a possibility when I did this list, I picked it up the wrong way. But I think those are wrong. So maybe that's another,
The ones that are B4 acquisitions?
yeah. I think they should be LI1 right now, because I think that changed in that.
Yeah, at the last time, the conditional
Yes.
rezoning was, yeah, they were.
Because they came in and they said, we want to put it back to manufacturing, but we want to leave the little corner, just the one at the corner that Rizzo bought.
Yeah, there was originally a much wider stretch of commercial
Yes.
there.
That's right.
All right, I'll check that one too.
Okay, does that address all the parcels to the east of M53 there, Joe?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, it more or less completes the tour. The only question is there any other property that you think should be addressed at this point?
What are we going to do with, I mean, is there even a decision we can make about the bowling alley properties?
No, I mean, that's just, someone's got to figure out what to do with them at some point. And they might wind up just using the front of the property. They might wind up buying a few of them and combining them.
Yeah, and the Andy Eskelin and the owner of Esco Roofing there on, that's just built, he did buy the one next door, and he's already thinking about what he's gonna do with that, and I don't know if he's gonna combine it or not, but he's already
Yeah,
thinking.
I see that he owns both. Well, that would take care of 2 of them.
It would, yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of houses that are still hanging in there, that eventually will probably not be there anymore. As we know from some of the early information that we looked at during this process, industrial is where the demand is highest, and where the vacancy regionally is lowest. So keeping all that land that we've already got zoned industrial is obviously kind of that's just, I don't know that we're ever gonna do anything else, but, it's also, you know, you have an ITC corridor that blocks it off from the rest of the township. It's pretty contained in that corner of the township, and then Romeo is all industrial to the south, so there's really it's not really in conflict with anything, so that helps a lot. It's a little weird that there's a senior housing project in the middle of it, but that's zoned industrial, and they built that knowing what everything was zoned, so.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that there's ever a way to recoup what was annexed by Romeo over time.
No.
I mean, that, I see really nowhere to make up for that.
Not really. Yeah, I mean, annexation's I mean, it's not a one-way street. You can de-annex land, but it doesn't happen very often. It has to happen by a vote of the local, by the landowners themselves, actually, so. All right, I mean, I think I know how to update most of this map. I guess there's still the question of the corner at the north end. But most of this map, I know what the changes are that we're looking at this point. And then updating those tables to kind of show a before and after would be part of this too, to help everybody think about how much land we're changing the designation of.
Yeah, I guess I just have questions that are like surrounding the properties along M53 from a future land use perspective of just, I think that was part of what we set out to study is like, should some of that industrial, do we have the right amount of industrial and commercial? I think we're largely, except for maybe a parcel or two, pretty clear on the commercial. I think to your question, well, to your statement that industrial is what's in demand, I guess that's what I wonder is like, we skimmed over a lot of M53. I think that is an asset. Should there be consideration for more industrial properties in the future?
Now's the time to discuss where it would be if there is.
So kind of along those lines, how far ahead does the state of Michigan plan highways in the form of like the Van Dyke Expressway up to 69? Because obviously Van Dyke would change. It's heavily traveled right now, but if the expressway was put in, that would not be traveled like it is. And then there would be maybe room for additional industrial along that new expressway.
Yeah, your access situation would change a lot, obviously. So you'd have to look at where the access points move to. It's one consideration. I don't know if MDOT has any long-term planning for, I could look into that and see if there's anything that they've got on the table. Obviously, it does go right through downtown Almont, so that's never going to be an expressway. They could maybe bypass it at some point in the future, but that seems like a pretty remote.
I would assume it would be similar to what they did around Rome.
Yeah, right, exactly. I don't know if I can look and see if I can come up with anything very quickly. But nothing's ever come to my attention that that there's a plan to extend the expressway portion of M53 in the near future. Their 5-year program, 2023 to 2027. Let's see if I can find a mention of M53 in there.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking like that soon. I'm just wondering about long-term and whether or not, if we're talking 20 years, if our master plan should reflect that.
Yeah, I'm just looking, I'm seeing nothing but basic maintenance here. And then I don't think there's really a long-term plan for that roadway. And no current plans for freeway expansion on M53. Previous plans to shift the M53 route to run parallel to Mound Road were never completed. Yeah, no plans to extend the expressway north of 34 Mile Road at the moment.
So I would just, I guess, pose a question, like, so we've got at 34 and 53 on the northeast corner, we've got that big area of, what's that?
15 acres.
Well, there's the commercial on the corner, the rest is what, industrial? Again,
Yeah, there's a lot of industrial.
is there a consideration for the property south of 34 that butts up against M53 as a continuation of an industrial pocket?
That, Anne Marie, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is one of the properties that was once industrial and was zoned away from industrial 20 years ago.
This would be the one that's on the backside of Sorrel Woods.
Yeah, yeah.
That was actually, my knowledge of that was, it's owned by Mount Elliott Cemetery Association, I think. I believe decades ago, they were buying expansion properties.
Okay.
And I think that was the same time that they bought the property on Rochester Road, which is a massive cemetery. So it's just kind of sitting there. I don't remember, Joe, if that was industrial at one point in the past.
I feel like there were some properties there in that area that were zoned away from it. I would have to look and confirm, but
I mean, honestly, being where it's right up to the expressway and it's right across 34 Mile Road from.
From commercial, industrial.
Industrial, yeah.
It's on 53, it's got office to the west.
well, again, I think you wouldn't necessarily have to do the whole thing. You know, you've got some residential there. You could leave a little breathing room.
Take a swath of it.
Take a,
Do you,
leave a buffer, so what does that buffer become? Does it leave it residential, does it,
Yeah, you'd probably just leave it what it is now.
gotcha.
so can you look and see how big that property is, the Mount Elliott Cemetery?
I'm trying to find a parcel number on it, but it's not showing up in GIS. Wait a minute, no, here it is,
Looks
here it
big.
is. Let's see if I got a link to it. Well, it's 80 acres.
Yeah.
It's 80?
Yeah.
Really? That is quite big.
It's quite large. Yeah, 80.530.
So I think that'd be one area for consideration. I think the other would be to the north of that existing industrial block. You've got two big parcels there, kind of up to where 35 Mile meets. Again, if adding it in the future is of value to us, that would just be a continuation of what's already there, so we're not creating a new pocket.
But then, does that put pressure on going straight north from there?
I mean, maybe for future consideration, I don't know, I mean, that's, Van Dyke is only gonna get busier and I think we talked about this last time, it doesn't matter what we do, Van Dyke's gonna get busier there, so what do we think makes sense there in the long term?
It is correct, but I mean, it's amazing the number of houses that are being built up in there on Van Dyke. And when you look at that big chunk there, that could be a nice subdivision and still have a buffer, so they're kind of, away from the industrial there. Personally, to me, I am not a fan of putting industrial further up Van Dyke. We heard that loud and clear on 3 or 4 different occasions last year, and it wasn't just a survey.
No, you're right, but it was also it was only people that were going to be affected by it. So,
No, we had other people in here. If we're
I'll
gonna,
grant you a few.
if we're gonna change something, I would prefer it to be right by the expressway.
I agree.
So how much industrial land did we lose between the subdivision on the west side of McKay and the apartment complex that's going in? I assume that used to be industrial. Is that 130 or 180 units? Was that industrial before?
All of the RAS, which they owned, like all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, they swapped multifamily for industrial, so it wasn't all industrial. At one point, it might have been, but that
Yeah,
conditional
RAS
rezoning
owns
has been
98 acres.
churning for a long
And
time.
they, for industrial,
Okay.
okay? Then, they didn't change the zoning classification, but they plopped the orchard grove in there, which isn't industrial. And then they got switched out the thing where the apartments are gonna be, so that was all industrial. That was, overall, yeah, they lost some of the industrial, but it's really the loss was the Romeo thing, it was huge.
I guess to Chair Vinson's point, the property immediately north of that industrial zoning, do we know what's happening on that property?
I think it's vacant, isn't it?
It sort of, but there's like trucks and stuff parked
Yeah.
on it
that's
sometimes.
the
Like,
tricky
I don't know what,
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
don't know
think
what's happening there.
I
what
think this
parcel?
is that little long,
Right
narrow
north of,
property
like
that's
Romeo
already
Rim and,
industrial.
Custom Biogenic Systems.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't. I know
It's
what you're
just,
talking
there's
about.
like
it's like,
trucks parked there.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the deal is with that property.
The long narrow, I think that's a utility easement,
Yes.
the one that goes through here. It goes through,
So that property immediately
No,
north of
he's
the
on
current
Vanda.
industrial zoning,
I thought he was talking about.
it's already kind
north of like
of,
Orchard
there's
Grove.
something going on it, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Van Dyke, Joe?
I'm talking about, yeah, on Van Dyke, the one right to the north of the current industrial zoning, where Custom Biogenics and Romeo Rim is.
I guess I just look at it from this, and I don't think there's a need for it now to the north, but I think in the future, as the need for residential grows and the need for industrial grows, assuming they both grow, it would make more sense to continue to target industrial somewhere on Van Dyke versus make that residential and put industrial somewhere else in the township that isn't connected to existing industrial. So, that's my, I don't know where it ends. I mean, I think we have the opportunity to review this every 5 years, or if there's a need to do it more frequently. But
what are some other thoughts on that? On whether or not going north at all makes any sense?
I would agree with Jared, just to continue on what we have, rather than create another pocket someplace else, makes more sense.
Say what, Randy?
To continue on with the industrial along Van Dyke, rather than create another pocket someplace else, if we needed more industrial.
Where would we be creating a pocket somewhere else?
If we run out of industrial and we're looking to place it somewhere else in the
Oh,
township.
To me, we're definitely gonna run out of industrial.
Right,
I
so-
mean, that's
so-
and I think it's to the point where we have to make a decision for the future and listen to what our residents have told us repeatedly is, I mean, we're gonna run out someday.
That's what I'm thinking. We don't have to add more just because we run out.
Exactly.
Big benefit of industrial, though, is the tax base. And the deal is the drain on resources, fire, ALS, is minimal compared to residential. With, residential, the more houses you put in, like on that 80-acre parcel, if that were ever to be residential, I mean, you just accelerate the rate that you need to take and have more support surfaces. And it's just a wash. I mean, versus industrial, you get a comparative positive return as compared to the expenditure on resources.
Well, we're looking at changing the future use for that 20 acres, I think it's 20 acres, Kalinowski Properties, that was was Lombardo RM1. We're saying, no, put that to industrial. We're talking about maybe part of this being
Yeah,
industrial.
yeah. Some sort of a buffer zone for Sorrel Woods, but a big chunk
Yeah.
of that being industrial.
I mean, those are, who said this was 80 acres, the one that was owned by the cemetery?
Yeah, Joe concurred that
So
it's
if-
80 and a half
It
acres.
says Mount Clemens General.
No,
It's on
that's
the
up
north
here.
side.
Yeah,
Oh, the piece on,
yeah, so.
We're talking about the piece on the south.
So
kind of
if
pie
it's the
shape.
cemetery, and let's
Oh,
just make
okay.
it easy, say slice it in half, that's 40 more acres right there, plus this 20 acres right there that we're saying future. I mean, we're getting up to a big chunk of what was lost.
Right, but not even back to where we started, right?
It depends on what we want to be in the future.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, just my opinion, some of these properties on Van Dyke, north of 53, north of 34, where there's already a base of industrial, I think there's 2 properties there, like, to me, that makes sense to expand that in the future. I'm not saying we change any current zoning, but thinking ahead, what do we ultimately want there? As the township grows, as M53 grows, as Van Dyke grows, like, is that more suitable for a residential development or industrial?
My concern is that it's just going to keep going north. You know, where you've got the bug farm, you've got, I thought I heard it was sold, the Walker property, but maybe not.
I think it's contingent, the sale is contingent. They'll be coming with a plan what do we say, I'm waiting for some documents, but there's a company coming with a plan, maybe after the new year.
All right.
Who's going to be coming in?
It's actually a church with a possible future
Oh,
school.
right, yeah,
So it'd
okay.
be an SLU. You know, and then you've got the kennel. You know, how long is the kennel gonna be there? It just seems to me like we're opening the door.
Well, again, it's gonna get developed into something, so.
Oh, right, I
Right.
agree.
It's not gonna stay a farm field forever.
Absolutely not.
So
I
what do we
agree.
think is the right thing for the township as it grows? Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to make decisions on.
Yeah, and a positive for that is obviously there's direct access to the expressway, so you're not running traffic really through your town. It's the same with 33 Mile. You know, you almost have to be going there to even get to any of that industrial. So as much of, it doesn't really go anywhere, like through the township. It's just kind of on the edge.
Right there.
Yeah, if you're not, you have to be going there. It's not gonna impact anything else.
Yeah, so part of what is, again, I'm not advocating that we put industrial all over Van Dyke, but I'm saying if 10 years from now, we need more industrial, and we've let that property go to something else, are we gonna have to put it down 35 Mile or 36 Mile or somewhere where it doesn't make anywhere near as much sense to put it?
We
But,
don't put it anywhere, Jared.
what's that?
We wouldn't put it anywhere. It's
But,
finite.
well, what if we think it's necessary at that
If
point?
it becomes necessary, do you want it in a subdivision or do you want it on a Van Dyke corridor? I guess if it becomes necessary. I would like to see a cluster together. Again, the fewer residents that we impact would be better.
And the thing is, if you deem it future, then people that are considering developing certain areas, they would know that there's a possibility of industrial being there.
Yeah.
I think there's probably a way to address it on a map too, and rather than just making it industrial on the future land use map, maybe we have a separate inset that says, like, future projections or something like that, that discusses it as a possibility, or talks in exactly the same way you're talking, you know, where
As needed.
if we want industrial, if industrial happens in the future outside of what you see on the future land use map, this is where it should happen.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, again, I don't think it's a need today, but if the township has a need in the future,
Yeah, I mean, you've got the same basic amount of land there as the Cordy sub.
yeah.
Maybe Cordy and Beaver Creek together. If you look at those two properties, they're pretty huge. And again, I don't think it's, yeah, I agree. I don't think it's probably imminent. But where else?
Andy, what's the subdivision on
Could go.
Ebling Road on the south side as you're almost to Van Dyke?
Bugle Lake,
Bugle Lake.
Yeah, Beagle Lake.
Isn't that Elkhorn Estates?
Elkhorn Estates,
Elkhorn
yeah.
Estates.
Elkhorn
The Bugle
Estates.
Lake is one of the roads in
Yeah.
there, yeah.
I mean, those hearings were awful when there was a 20-acre parcel that was slated for,
Storage
Storage, now it's gonna be a church and.
Yeah, now they're gonna have kids with a school and.
I don't think anybody's gonna have a problem with kids at church and a school.
Well, they won't have a vote if it's I mean, if it's covered
Exactly,
in the land use.
exactly.
No, I'm not discounting that. I know that butts up against that subdivision and that would not be well received by those residents. Maybe that's something where we could talk about.
The Mahaffey Drain is between them and anything that could happen there. You can't cross the drain.
Okay,
So the
Oh, yeah.
northwest corner of that property is unavailable due to the drain. So there's kind of a built-in buffer, not huge, but there is sort of a built-in
and we could
buffer.
even designate a bigger buffer if we thought that was warranted. I'm certainly not trying to.
Sure.
Affect them, but I think from a practical sense, if there was a future need for industrial, I think it should be on Van Dyke. I mean, otherwise, I think, again, if there's a future need. Joe, I like your idea of like a different type of designation where it's not changing it immediately, it's more of a projection of possibilities in the future.
Now, when you talk about Van Dyke, Jared, does that include the south side of 34 east of Van Dyke / M53?
That's the triangle one we talked about, or the,
The current cemetery property?
yeah.
Okay, all right.
To me, that property fits or has similar characteristics to the one we talked about previously, the other pie shape on the west side of M53 off of 33 Mile and McVicker. Expressway access, connected to other industrial properties across the street.
Yeah.
I think another thing to think about with those properties to the north, if you do separate them out as kind of their own subject, and you could also note that the preferred designation would be the IRO, the more planned, because that's got a much bigger exterior setback than just LI1.
Okay.
So you might also lean toward saying, look, I mean, there's 70 acres there between those two parcels. It's a lot of land. You could definitely do a sub in there for industrial development. And if you were pushing it toward that LI1, you'd be more likely to get a all-indoor, multi-user, single access point type of development where you've got,
Do you mean IRO?
yeah, IRO, yeah.
Okay, you said LI1, so,
Oh, yeah, IRO. You'd be much more likely to get that kind of low intensity, everything's happening inside. You're just looking at a bunch of buildings rather than outdoor activity kind of developments. If you noted that that was the more appropriate designation, and that's where most industrial development is headed anyway.
okay.
It's a little bit bifurcated. You've got kind of like the stuff that's almost all outdoors, and then you've got the more industrial park looking stuff.
Okay.
Because, I mean, ultimately, you don't want it to jump the ITC corridor and eat the farms to the north of the existing, industrial, if you can help it. So
Yeah.
you've got really high-value agricultural uses there that hopefully get preserved into the future. And that's where the pressure would go if you didn't have any other outlets, so.
It would be where?
To the north of the current industrial, so you've got a couple of very high-value working farms there. Yeah.
Well, I guess that would be my vote. I mean, I think if we put it there and we get feedback, we can always make changes. If we don't, then we will move it up.
Are you voting for LI1 there or IRO?
I like Joe's recommendation. I mean, I don't, I'm open to suggestions. I guess.
Can you restate your suggestion?
So my suggestion would be that you don't necessarily just slap industrial on the future land use map. You call it out, maybe with some sort of outline, and say, see supplement, and then you have a little supplemental map that says, these properties, you have a discussion of if industrial land runs out of availability in the township, where do we want things to be directed? We want them to be directed to a place where they have access to a major regional highway. These two properties would be the place where that could happen. Here's their acreage. We would recommend that the IRO designation be the one pursued if this ever were to go industrial. You've kind of teed it up at that point. Next time you're looking at your master plan, you can see if it still feels relevant. What's actually happened in the meantime, you know, say it's 6 years between now and your next master plan update. Well, you might have 4 or 5 more things go into your existing industrial, and you might be thinking, wow, the walls are closing in now, we're running out of room. Maybe that's the time you actually put it on the future land use map or something like that.
Well, there is something to be said if the plan can force it down the avenue of being the lowest impact.
Right, yeah, exactly, and ultimately, that's where most industrial development is, most of the demand is channeled that way. Yes, you do have contractor yards and things, but lots of tech businesses, it all happens indoors. You have a sterile facility where you're shooting lasers at things, you know, it's like, you don't need a big storage yard out back or anything, it's all happening inside. So if you would get that kind of industrial park with a focus on that kind of use, it's high value employment, that's high taxable value, and it's not gonna have a lot of spillover effects relative to kind of traditional industrial, let's call it. You might get a traffic signal going in and out of that sub, but, that's something that would have to be figured out at the time.
Well, I mean, we've got it will be interesting to see what happened, because just south of that, we've got would be 85, about 70 acres of IRO that, in the hospital.
Yeah, it's
And I mean,
already-
that can be at the taking right now.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you can even write into that little supplement saying, look, there's already IRO land that's open. Maybe you don't really even think about this until that land goes. And then once that's being developed, okay, now we've got to break into this other reserve of land that we've got.
I like that thinking.
Okay. Anything else we need to cover? Anything else we didn't cover? Do we need to go back to the property to the north and make a determination on that? Either reaffirm what we've talked about or reopen or reconsider that for some other use? I think that'd be the other thing.
Yeah, we didn't make a decision on it earlier, so I think it would be helpful to.
Are we
know-
talking all the way up
Yeah, at Boardman.
I personally would still like to see how our numbers flush out with what we've changed.
We didn't change any commercial, right?
The Ebling went away, but,
Yeah, that's so small though.
otherwise,
Did we do something at 34th in Van Dyke?
It was existing.
That was existing, okay.
yes.
Yeah, we
yeah,
did.
that was existing. And then, of course, we lost the little south end there along, Old Van Dyke, when the Lombardo rezoning happened recently.
Yeah, right, but it was 6 acres that was
Yeah.
basically useless. But I suppose,
Yeah, and then there's an old consent judgment that covers the node at 36 in Van Dyke, so that's not changing.
So I think Daryl, you advocated for some reconsideration of this.
I'd like it to be an option. Just being it's a farthest portion of our township. It's gonna be against another community's commercial anyways. I think that would blend very well and keep our area a little more rural.
Is there 2 parcels south of Boardman to get to the hospital property?
So you've got the Lavender Farm, and then the next 2 parcels are both owned by the hospital.
And I think we confirmed from the thing you sent that that outbuilding is on the second parcel.
Okay, so then, future use for that second parcel would also match whatever the hospital is?
that was
Yes.
what we
That's
talked
right
about.
now.
That's what we talked about.
Yeah, office was discussed.
So then what if we like split that piece of property in half at Boardman? Or not necessarily half, but make a square out of it, so whatever the frontage is along Van Dyke, do the same frontage along Boardman Road and designate that hospital commercial.
So how does that work with one parcel being, because I know we kind of eradicated that over in the Lombardo, where we had one parcel with 2 different zonings
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah,
We
well-
just went through some
to
effort
clean that
to
up.
clean all that mess
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
And now
yeah.
we're talking about making more.
Right, I kind of,
Ultimately, if you were gonna do commercial use there, you'd probably divide the part of it that was gonna be commercial. You'd split it off.
can we
I
make that?
just keep looking at I mean, the Henry Ford is 20 acres. We keep saying that, it's gonna be hard to use that for anything else, as it is. What happens if there's a developer that wants to put housing in there? Then we're gonna have, I just have a problem putting commercial out in the middle of,
Well, it has zoning for housing right now. I mean,
It
it's-
does.
you have minimum 5-acre lots, so you couldn't get too much in there, because it's a
Right.
17-acre parcel, but
I guess I don't feel compelled to do something because of what another community, another county for that matter, is doing. Just because somebody is butting up to us or anybody in any part of the township. I don't feel compelled that we should have to change our plan just because they're doing it. Because if we change our plan, then what's to stop somebody from directly across the street saying, or down where they just built the huge barn, well, we want to make the barn commercial. We want to make it a little shopping plaza. You allowed him to do it, I mean, there's,
If you
there's-
planned for him to do it and you didn't plan for the other person to do it though, the case isn't really gonna be there.
say what again?
I said if you planned for one person to do it and not the other person, you know, the
Right,
case is-
you're
There's no
exactly,
precedent that is
Yeah,
established.
the other guy's not gonna be able to say, well, I wanna turn my barn into a shopping center, and your future land use plan says I can.
right, but I mean, it just opens the door to me, to somebody else saying, well, I want to be future planned for this, because I essentially am at the north end of the township on Van Dyke, and I think I'm perfectly suited for this.
Yeah, and I would just say the alternative is, again, not that we should make decisions based on what Almont does, but if they develop all that from Boardman North that's designated as commercial to be commercial, and the property to the south either stays what it is and a hospital type of building, or it gets expanded into more office as it would be designated, then what's in the middle is odd.
And going back to what the residents say, the residents aren't afraid to drive to other places, so to me, to push them to the outskirts would be keeping our area more rural, keeping the outskirts, just more.
No, when they say, when the whole thing about the implied, in fact, I even think it says it, the implied, and I believe stated in the master plan, when they say driving to get commercial and get the basic needs, it's specific to the south, to the village of Romeo and south. So,
Well, we gotta make some kind of decision. We got some in favor of some sort of consideration. I think others are still adamant against, so what do we,
I think you almost have to put
who have
something
we not
on,
heard from?
put something on the map like you had suggested, just so that it's talked about at a town hall. And then you can get the opinion of what the community wants.
I think as long as there's support from the commissioners to
Yeah.
consider that, then yes. Because that would give us a chance, based on feedback, to change it. If we didn't do something like that, then I don't think we'd get any further consideration.
Right.
I do think there's a point there too, that while we don't have to do something because a neighboring community did something, the neighboring community still does have that commercial zoning there, and if it does get developed all the way down to the corner and you've got the facility to the south, yeah, I think your point does stand, that now you've got a wedge in between. So,
well.
does that make sense?
I suppose we could go back and look, but I believe that that whole swath of Van Dyke for Elmont, the Elmont Township it would be, I think it's always been zoned commercial on the east side, because if you go a little further up, there's a gun shop. And
Yeah, the gun shops there.
there's a bank, I think, up in there.
Yeah.
I mean, so all of a sudden, this is now something that we need to do. Or that's what I'm hearing.
Well, it's not all of a sudden, we're talking about future,
Yeah.
we're talking about the what-ifs down the road, it's not,
Right,
it's
but
just
we-
planning for something that we haven't seen yet, and we don't know, but it's.
That I understand, but we've had the same, our master plan language has basically been as it is for decades. And so this was, I understand we have to look forward, but this has never been a discussion to put commercial way up on Van Dyke, even though Elmont has always had that.
Yeah. That's what, yeah, that's, I think we should talk with the residents, if they're, opposed to it, and maybe we change it, but I just try to get an idea. If we do need the extra commercial, I think that would be an option.
So if we did nothing with this property, does anything prevent the owner of an owner of that property from coming and requesting a rezoning at some point? Bringing a specific plan, this is what I want to do and I want it rezoned. Can they do that?
Anyone can ask to rezone any property to any designation anytime, as long as they have an interest in that property. The thing about that is that if it's just completely out of whack with the future land use map, the answer's gonna be no almost 100% of the time. There'd have to be some really compelling case to say otherwise, right? Whereas, if your future land use map is reflective of the request, then there's a case to make the rezoning. So if you don't put any kind of commercial designation here, then if someone were to come in asking to rezone it, there wouldn't be much of a case for the rezoning. It would be, you'd have to have something really compelling. You'd have to probably make a case that there's been major change, say the opposite corner got developed with something commercial and it's been 6 years and we haven't updated the plan again, and you'd have to have a lot of bricks to build your case to get to the point where you'd be even thinking about a rezoning if it wasn't on the future land use map. Anybody's free to ask, at any time, but there's review standards.
So we got to make a decision on this. I think we've heard from Randy and Daryl and Anne Marie. I think Mandy, Dave, Rick, I guess would be interested in your opinion so we can get to a decision.
So is it possible to put something like we're doing with the future industrial, along with something similar to that?
Yes, it's a little bit of a smaller area and kind of one property, so I'm a little, when we're talking about 70 acres, I'm a little more inclined to do that versus 17. It's a much smaller site. I think this one would just be on the future land use map. And I think you could make this change to the future land use map, and yes, something could happen pretty quickly, but also, we know that there's been commercial zoning north of this along Van Dyke for quite some time, and the demand just hasn't percolated into that area very much. You have the bank and the gun shop, and that's it. So it might actually take a long time before anything comes to pass. I don't know. We don't have any way of knowing, and that's uncertainty is one of the things that always kind of haunts us when we're doing these processes.
In future consideration for commercial, that's not specific to whether it be C1, C2, or C3. It's just commercial period, correct?
No, we would designate.
On the future land use map?
No, we just say commercial.
Oh,
It just says commercial on the future land use map. You would have to discuss that and put some language into your plan if you want it to be more specific than that.
And if we were to do that, then if the response during the public hearings was overwhelming that they didn't want that, then we still have the opportunity to remove that, correct?
You can, if you find that the standards of a review for a rezoning are not met, you can always recommend that the board deny a request for rezoning.
No, I think that wasn't the question he
No,
was asking.
I'm talking during the public hearings for the,
The
town
town hall.
Yeah.
yeah, town.
Town
If you
hall,
don't, if
yeah.
you don't have an adopted master plan at that point, you can still make whatever changes you want.
Okay.
So just another question, the two properties to the south are office. Is it easier to request a rezoning from office to commercial than agricultural to commercial, or does it not make a difference?
To a degree, yes, because office is a closer designation to a commercial district. You're not going
Yes,
up as far.
okay. So if we made this piece, future land use office at this point, since it would be connected to two other parcels of office, it would not be as far of a jump from office to commercial if somebody had a plan in the future.
That's correct. I think the ones to the south are being thought of as office just because there's already medical office
Yeah.
there. You know, as we've discussed, there's demand for offices.
Yeah, right. It's not really there.
As I'm thinking about it, as you could tell, I'm not a big fan of plopping commercial way up there. Having said that, I would feel a lot better about a future designation if I knew what was gonna happen with the hospital property.
Well, you're not gonna know. But we need to make a decision, and I need to hear from the people that have not voiced an opinion on this so we can move on.
Well, is there already a majority who's for it?
We're trying to establish what the majority is.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Because if it is going to happen, I wouldn't support the full parcel, all 17 acres. I think that we would have to just do the front, and I know it gets messy that way, but the Lombardo rezoning was messy because there was landlocked parcels, there was, 6 of them that were involved too. This would be a lot cleaner if we squared it off at the road.
Can we stipulate that they divide it so that it's a parcel with
I mean,
one?
you wouldn't be requiring it in a master plan, but you could say, you know, future commercial development should be separated. That's some guidance you could provide. Just for reference, so you got a 17-acre parcel here at the corner. You put 3 houses on that under the current zoning. And then to the south, you've got 20 acres, that's 4 houses that you can put on that under the current zoning. So to scrape that hospital building off that site and then put 4 houses in its place is prohibitively expensive. This is never gonna be 4 houses. Unless the building magically takes off and leaves the planet or something, it's just not gonna be 4 houses to the south. Obviously, there's not a building to remove to the north, but again, it's only 3 houses that could occupy that site, so.
You're talking the one on the corner
The
or
one
the
on the
second?
corner, the one on the corner, yeah. Yeah, because I'm talking about the total hospital site when I say.
Be
4 houses.
interesting if you tried to carve just the Van Dyke section off, because right now, all the property lines match at the back.
Yeah, there's a straight line down, and there's like a one with little weird triangle to the south that might actually be owned by the same owners to the south of the hospital. That weird little triangle, it's 2.7 acres. I'm not sure if that's owned by the same people. What I'm looking at doesn't give me the owner.
Jared, is a way to get to whether we're going to include it or not, to make a motion, just so we can.
I think I'd call it an informal.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a straw vote or
Yeah, it's
something.
a straw
Yeah,
vote,
thank you.
yeah.
So who is in favor of carving off a portion of this? Because I don't think there's any support for making the whole thing commercial. But who would be in favor of carving off a portion of this to be considered for future commercial use? By show of hands, please. And so I assume the opposite then, who would prefer to leave it as residential as zoned? By show of hands. Listen, folks.
3-1.
3-1, so again, the people that have not voiced an opinion need to speak up.
You had a third option?
I mean, I think for the sake of discussion, again, we're heading toward an open house. I think if it's under consideration, it should be shown at the open house if it's being considered. If you don't show it and then you do it,
I mean, at the town hall.
yeah, sorry, the town hall, yeah, kind of using the two terms
Yeah.
kind of interchangeably, but, I mean, I think that if it's being considered, then it should be on display at that event.
That's the thing, have the residents put their remarks on it.
Well, my issue is 3 members have not voiced an opinion on this, and I think that's frustrating, because that doesn't, it may not have support at the moment. So,
I could support something like a portion of that property being commercial. It would just be nice, I think, if, if we could do something different. Nobody's asked to make it office, but if office gets us somewhere in the interim or in the middle, where it could more easily go to commercial, I would probably be happy with that.
So am I understanding correctly, you would be in support of considering it for discussion as office?
Well, there's 2 pieces that it would be connected to that are already office.
Yeah,
That makes sense,
yeah.
so.
So it's a step towards.
Yeah.
One step closer to commercial.
And,
Yeah.
and Joe said it's easier to get from office to commercial if somebody comes in with a plan,
I would be in support of that.
because if it's just commercial, I don't know how much say we're gonna have in a plan. Are we gonna have much say, Joe? If it's already zoned commercial on the future land use?
Well, if it's planned commercial, they'll have to rezone it before they can do any commercial development. So, you'll have input at that point, and then you would get a site plan, or special land use, or whatever it happened to be. If they come in with a compliant site plan, that fits in their district that they've been rezoned to, then, that obviously has to be approved. If it's something more like a special land use, then there's a little bit more discretion.
So how is it distinguished between C1, 2, or 3 at that point if it's just shown commercial on the future land use map?
It depends a little bit on how we ultimately describe it in this document. Because right now, commercial has one designation in the current land use plan. And we could either break it up or work with the description to talk about what we want. Because I know that C3 is probably the biggest concern that
Right, I don't want to see anything like that.
Right.
And I would hate for someone to come and say, well, it says commercial, and I want to see 3, and that's commercial, and now, I'm going to sue until I get it.
If I'm not mistaken, the owner did, and it may have been a misunderstanding about how things are tagged for future use, but I do believe we got something in writing that was a request for C3.
I remember seeing something to that effect as well. But I mean, even if we were to consider it for office, it's not a commitment. I mean, we're still having the town halls, and if the community feedback is no, 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 then we're back to ground zero, correct?
if you, should you choose to go there, yeah.
Right.
It's
To me,
still
I
your
can
decision.
actually follow the logic of office, which is a specialized form of commercial, because that's what we're looking at will happen to the Henry Ford.
The only thing with the offices, many times we've mentioned, there's not a big demand for office, and I think that what we're trying to work on now is trying to get our commercial. So we're actually
Right.
moving away from what we're trying to get.
I don't think we're trying to get commercial.
I know what you're saying, it's closer to that designation, it's a one step off.
Right, but,
But-
I mean, we have never had a hue and cry of people coming in asking for commercial. In fact, I mean, we may have, based on what we've done here, it was always, at least in my mind, and I think I've said it here before, do we have too much commercial? Right? I mean, has never been a discussion that I can remember, nor that I've seen in the minutes, about putting the need to expand commercial, especially to expand it way up on Van Dyke. Right? I appreciate the arguments in that, with the pros and the cons of that, I get it. But to me, it seems, because we're kind of locked in, because I'm not gonna talk about Elmont. Elmont's gonna do what Elmont's gonna do. But I do understand you could get something sandwiched in there. So if we're looking at Henry Ford being office, then it should be office, if we're gonna change it to anything.
I would definitely agree, it'd be office before it's residential. So,
Well, yeah,
I definitely agree with that.
I agree on that.
I think medical would be most likely used if it winds up turning into something office. Because that's where the demand is in the office space right now. You'd wind up with some sort of medical office. I don't know what necessarily, but that's most likely where it would head. And I don't know if the facility to the south would get reused first or not, but, because I've never been in the facility to the south, so I don't know how much updating it needs or anything like that. That can be a major barrier to occupancy for medical facilities.
Is there any urgent cares or anything like that in Elmont? Does anybody know?
No.
No, somebody there knows. No. So I imagine, is there even one in Imlay City?
I don't know offhand.
I know there's not one in Armada. I mean, geez,
No, we have one in Fiddler's Cove now.
we do, but I'm thinking of, where do people north of us go when they have a need?
Hospital and Beard,
What
small hospital.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Do that or fly down M53 to Henry Ford. Anyway, I'm in support of the consideration of that property for office.
I would support that as well.
Okay. Guess we'll make it office. Anything else on the master plan?
I think it's kind of on me to synthesize at this point.
Make the updates. So would we look to have that kind of a recap at the next meeting, Joe? Agree on all the changes that have been
Yeah,
made, kind of do a
that's-
final review before we talk about scheduling the town halls?
That's the timeline I'd be looking at.
Okay,
Because we know we're not going to try to schedule a town hall before the new year, because
right.
When
December
are you
is the absolute
thinking
worst.
of, like,
January, or February, I would think. Because, I mean, you just can't do it at the end of the year. Everybody's running around like a chicken with their head cut off at that point.
When you do something like the town hall,
Can we talk about this at the next meeting? We're not ready to schedule it yet.
yeah,
Okay, thank you. Any updates on agribusiness or agritourism?
no.
Any updates on 5G?
Can I ask a question about the 5G? I just went to a training session and they talked about limits on things with moratoriums, that there's actually, like, limits, that you shouldn't just have something on, more as far as moratoriums go, that you just shouldn't have them linger.
It's a consideration for the board. They should probably talk to their attorney about it. I've heard the same thing. But I think there's also a very practical question about the purpose of a moratorium, given how much preemption there is, and the fact that the moratorium hasn't stopped anything.
Right,
Like, so it's kind of like, what's it even for?
right. Yeah, so it's our board's decision really ultimately whether they
Yeah, well,
want to
it's
keep
where the
this.
moratorium originated, and it wasn't this board, it was like 2 boards ago.
Yeah.
You mean the township board, not the planning commission?
Yeah, township board, yeah, because originally it was a previous version of the township board that put that in place. The current 5 were not involved in that. The current 5 should probably ask the attorney about an off-ramp for that moratorium.
And speaking of moratoriums, if I can just, I know we're going on. Also, we talked about the PA 233, and that there were some people that we sat with that, and that's the, refresh my memory, Joe, what does that cover besides solar and, there's a few things. It's called PA 233 and 4.
Yeah, citing for renewable energy and battery storage. So there's not really a short way to summarize it.
Okay, well, then maybe we'll talk about it at our next meeting.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you that fair warning.
Yeah, no,
before
let's
I started
save it
summarizing
then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about that on the side maybe.
Okay. There's no new business. Any other comments from committees or consultants? Any comments from commissioners? Make a motion to adjourn at 9:24 PM.
Second?
Second by Augustine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.